I'd like to call to order the Avalon City Council meeting of September 15th, which will also include the successor agency to the Avalon Community Improvement Agency. Denise, if we may have the roll call, please.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Here.
Councilmember Sampson?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Olson?
Here.
Mayor Marshall?
Here.
And for the record, Councilmember Hernandez is absent.
Okay. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Kevin Strady. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you would please remain standing as Father Roberto Peroni from St. Catherine's of Alexandria will be leading us in the invocation. We also would like to welcome him to our community. He's been here for about 3 or 4 months now, and he's been very well received. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your many, many blessings upon us, for this beautiful island, this beautiful community, for the rain, which we need so badly. Please send more. And we also pray for those in the community that have died tragically, those 3 deaths of young people. We pray for their families, that they may receive your consolation and peace in spite of the tragic loss of their loved ones. We pray for this community, for this meeting today, that there may be goodwill, that there may be true cooperation, and that truly we may work together to build up this community to be a loving, positive community in which all may feel at home and truly experience your blessings through our love for one another. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you very much, Father. Are there any announcements?
None, Mayor.
Are there any written communications?
None that I'm aware of.
Okay, it's time for presentations.
Yes, first up this evening is an update from Southern California Edison on the Phase 2 water rationing, and Mr. Jeff Lawrence is here to provide that to you. Jeff.
Welcome back, Jeff.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the Council and staff. My name is Jeff Lawrence, Project Manager for Southern California Edison, here to give you an update on Stage 2 water rationing as well as our additional desalination project. Our current reservoir, as of last Thursday, is at 223 acre-feet, so very minimal reductions in water level from week to week, which is a positive thing. And I'll show you how that affects our forecast here in a few slides. Because of the persistent drought conditions now, we've exceeded the 1-year mark in Stage 2 water rationing. So we've changed these next couple slides a little bit because when we compare August now, we would have been comparing August to our first month after Stage 2 was implemented. So we've reset this to compare the last month of data to August during the baseline period, which is from June 2012 to May 2013. So in looking at August of last month in that comparison, we actually reduced water use by almost 50%, just over 48% compared to August 2013. There were significant reductions when you did compare it to our first month in rationing as well. We had reduced water use by about 12 acre-feet compared to last August 2014. So the community continues to do a great job in their conservation efforts. This while visitor counts have gone up almost 21% since August during our baseline period. And again on this chart, we changed the data that we're comparing here. So for Stage 2, we're comparing the last 12 months of data, and we'll continue to do this just on a rolling 12-month period, and we'll compare that to the baseline period. So even though we have it listed here as June 2012 to May 2013, on the left bar, the blue chart, and then on the right, it's September 14 to August 15th. We're essentially comparing 12 months of data to 12 months of data. So we're going to compare the last 12 months to the baseline period. And we've been able to reduce water use by just over 40%, while visitor counts have gone up almost 26%, amounting to a total water reduction of about 153 acre-feet, roughly equivalent to about a 6-month supply of water for the island. So a tremendous job by the community, I must say. Since the last time I updated you on our water use violations, we've had 8 new violations, bringing the total now to 109 as of September 15th. This chart here is showing the billing periods that have closed for the last month, and of those billing periods, or billing cycles, how many resulted in a flow restrictor violation. So we are seeing a slight uptick here. We're at roughly 6.4% for the month of August. So far in Stage 2 rationing, we've had 328 flow restrictors issued. 267 of those are residential and 61 are commercial. So I'm pleased to report that on our Stage 3 forecast, which we should really change the name. It should be a forecast now to be at the 200 acre-foot level or below at the reservoir, because likely we're going to be able to defer Stage 3 water rationing, and we may dip below the 200 acre-foot level without going into further stages of rationing. But nonetheless, what we're forecasting right now to hit the 200 acre-foot level has been extended to early November. So last month, I think I know I reported that it was going to be in the October timeframe. So we've been able to revise that forecast to extend it a month, which is obviously great news for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a picture of our GE reverse osmosis unit being set on the platform. You can see, I guess that red laser's not going to show up there, but the building on the left there is the existing desalination unit, the desalination plant, I should say. And then to the right of that is a platform that sits on 8 pillars, and that RO unit is now in place. I know a few of you were able to visit the plant shortly after that unit was set in place. So we're making tremendous progress on the project. Based on the fact that the original schedule of the desalination project was based on our Stage 3 forecast of the September timeframe when we had decided to pursue this project last spring. We had a very aggressive schedule. But because of the benefits of the Stage 2 results and the reduced water use, along with the advice letter that we find with the CPUC to defer Stage 3 water rationing, we have an opportunity now to slow down construction a bit at a cost savings for the project, and not to be so rushed to meet a September deadline when we're not facing Stage 3 50% water rationing. So we have extended the schedule a bit. We are looking at now having the plant permitted and online commissioned by November 1st. We'll have the mechanical and electrical work completed by October 16th, and start commissioning process on, that should say October 17th.
Jeff, I'm sorry, did you say that you did submit the advice filing to the CPUC?
No, so I was going to update you on that as well.
Sorry.
That has not been submitted to the CPUC yet, but we have been in contact with the commission. We'll be submitting that letter to them in the next week or two. And the commission has not raised any concerns about that thus far. So we are not anticipating any issues. And at the next city council meeting, as part of that advice letter as well, there are a few new water restrictions. I believe I had briefed the council on a couple meetings ago. I'll share with you specifically what those new water use restrictions will be. It's in line with the governor's order, so it's going to be consistent water use restrictions for Catalina as well. And that concludes my presentation, unless there's any other questions.
Questions, comments, the council?
Thank you, Jeff.
Other than it's great news.
Absolutely.
And we know everybody's just really been working very hard. We appreciate that. And the community can have a little breathing room and feel good. So thank you.
And an inch of rain today.
What's that?
And an inch of rain today.
Was it an inch?
About an inch, yeah.
Yay.
Oh, that's
great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Okay, and we have another presentation?
We do, Mayor.
Okay.
Next presentation is from the Catalina Island Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau. I can talk. Jim Lutjohan is here to present the annual report to the City Council. Jim, I believe the council has hard copies of this as well. Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
I believe so. You do? Okay. And for any members of the audience, there's an abbreviated version printed out in smaller slide form over here on the table.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, so you'll have to tolerate me looking up and down and putting glasses on and off because the universe has seen fit to make me thoroughly blind. So I'll do my best not to lose my way as I go back and forth between slides here tonight. So tonight I'll be presenting a report on the activities and finances of the Catalina Island Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau. Some of what you'll see tonight is duplicative of information I've shared in some other recent presentations, and a lot of it is new and reflects the outcome of our very recently completed audit for the fiscal year that ended June 30, 2015. For all of you on the council, I'm sure you know a little bit of this information, but for some of the folks in the audience or at home, they may not know how we're structured. We are a nonprofit 501c6 organization. We are what in our industry is known as a DMO, or a destination marketing organization. And we provide those destination marketing services on behalf of the City of Avalon and for businesses located on Catalina Island. We are also a chamber of commerce in a very traditional way that chambers exist throughout the country, and we provide a number of member services accordingly in that regard. We're governed by a 19-member board of directors. We have only one standing committee, that's our executive committee, and we have a handful of other ad hoc committees like marketing and cruise industry relations and membership. Our fiscal year runs concurrent with the city's, and we ascribe to most of DMAI's measurements and best practices for reporting standards. And what DMAI is Destination Marketing Association International. There are a couple of their measurements that really don't apply to our type of organization. So if you were to go digging on the internet and look for all of those measurements, you would see things for convention centers and so on that really don't apply to our direct operations. But all the ones that do, we ascribe to. We are short of one very critical measurement that DMAI does recommend, and I'll reference it at a couple of points throughout the presentation tonight, and that is to have a third-party verification of our demographic profile and visitor impact as far as economics go. And we hope in the new fiscal year that's just begun to initiate one of those studies, and so I'll refer to that a little bit later down the line here too. Those measurements are important to showing our stakeholders the return on investment that the TOT dollars you've invested in us are delivered back to the community appropriately. We're members of all the industry associations that you see the logos for here, and we regularly participate in either their online or in-person training programs to keep ourselves up to speed and ahead of any changes and trends in the marketplace. I was asked in preparation for this to provide you all and the audience as well just a little bit of background on transient occupancy tax and how that works in our community. So I'll briefly go over that. From its inception in California, TOT, as we commonly refer to it, was established to fund tourism marketing programs. Over time, the law has changed. There have been some challenges to the law, and various communities have mostly ascribed to a model that's very similar to what we have here, where some portion, but not 100%, of the city or county government's collected TOT is dedicated to either in-house or, as in our case, by contract out to a third party to provide destination marketing services. Specifically, our city's provision states that we are to provide visitor services, public relations, advertising, and marketing services. And so a lot of what I'll report on tonight relates specifically to those tasks. And on the slide, you'll see a summary of kind of a timeline of how there's been change. We've gone in the recent years from 7% of every guest stay in a hotel or vacation rental on the island, now up to 12%. And as that growth has occurred, there have been evolutions in how we were funded. At one point, we were funded completely outside of the TOT situation. The city used to pass through all of the business tax license fees to us. That went away during one of the increases in TOT when the voters approved an initiative that set up the current model. So it's been a significant year of change in our organization, and we started off last October by saying goodbye to Wayne. We, just before that, and it was actually wrapped up a short time after that, went through an IRS audit of our 2011 earned income programs. It was not a comprehensive audit, it was a very targeted and specific audit, that we were one of 200 nonprofit organizations in the country who were randomly selected to go through that sort of a selection. They made no significant findings. We did have to change just a couple of small things in how we reported our taxes going forward, but nothing of any significance. We also obviously had the big change after Wayne left, when I arrived, and soon after that we had one of our most successful in many years New Year's Eve celebrations. We had the terrible storm the eve before that. We have had both staff retreat and board retreats in recent months, and I brought to you guys a few months ago the first celebration on the island of National Travel and Tourism Week, and we hope to make that an annual and recurring event and really grow the things we do along with our counterparts around the country in bringing that to you every year. And then I'm proud to say we played a significant role in the Whatever USA events, both in the pre and during and post event. I think I went 2 slides. Yes, I did. There. Okay. So, as I mentioned earlier, marketing and public relations are 2 of the chief areas where we put our efforts forward on an ongoing basis. In advertising spending, 73% of the budget for the fiscal year just completed was dedicated to internet and digital placements. That is increasingly and almost exclusively in many segments like millennials, where people are doing their pre-travel planning. So that's why we put a significant amount of our budget there. Things that are included there are what's known as paid search, we do banner advertisements, and we do email campaigns direct to consumer. We also have about 23% of our budget committed to print advertising. Print is not dead, despite what I just told you. It's often a second tier or a different level of use in that planning process or when in market. And so we still have a significant amount of money attributed to that. And then we keep 4% as a contingency fund for situations that might come up during the year. In addition, we are one of 3 island partners who participate in a co-op program. The total budget for that co-op program is $330,000. We put in $111,000. Each of the other partners put in the same amount. And those buys have contributed in the past year to a digital media buy, including placement on TripAdvisor in the form of banners, in another set of targeted email campaigns, retargeting campaigns. If you don't know what that means, you might visit a website and then a couple days later you're on something completely different, but magically the banner ad related to the place you were looking at a couple of days ago is reappearing in the right-hand column. That's called retargeting. We do an email campaign and Facebook promoted texts also with those partners. This year we had a significant print buy among the partnership. So ads were placed in National Geographic Traveler, Westways, Inland Empire Magazine, and Sunset Magazine, as well as Southwest for the In-Flight magazine. In every one of those situations, we do our best to bargain editorial simultaneous, so we have complement with the story told and the print ad. And if there's a digital component, we always negotiate for that, and that's true whether it's the bureau side or the co-op side. Organization-specific marketing this year, in addition, we produce our annual visitor's guide. There's copies here on the table for anyone who may not have seen one. We normally do about 75,000 of those. That is our primary response piece. So someone contacts us either by phone, by email, or as a send me link on our website. And that's our primary response piece, is to send out our visitor guide to them. The visitor guide is also taken to all of the trade shows we attend, and it is distributed in California Welcome Centers. In addition, we produce maps and brochures at a quantity of 175,000, which are distributed in mainland terminals where the boats depart to bring guests here to the island. And we have rack cards, 200,000 of those last year, that are distributed through a company called Certified Folder to over 500 mainland venues. You might have seen those yourself when you're in a hotel lobby or when you're in a rental car agency. You see those racks that have traditional cards. We place those cards there. In addition to the visitor guides being in the California Welcome Centers, we have a 15-second video that plays on a large screen monitor in all of those California Welcome Centers too. We're one of only 4 destinations in the whole state of California that's on a loop circulating there. So it's significant exposure. And those California Welcome Centers are in places like where you cross into California coming out of Nevada near the Barstow Outlet Mall. Huge volumes of foot traffic through there. Pismo Beach at the Outlet Mall, and Pier 39 in San Francisco, right near Disneyland in Anaheim. So there are large exposure opportunities there. We have also hosted over 30 media outlets. That means travel writers from various publications or online travel planning sites have visited us. There were 63 people representing those 30 media outlets. Over 1/3 of those outlets this year were foreign. So we often hear in the community, because we tell them that we've got all these millions of people right over in Los Angeles, and that's where we primarily target, and we'll hear, well, let's do more to get the word out, beyond that area. And so here's evidence that we do. We do it in a more receptive way versus, putting something in a welcome center that's right here already close by. But we had quite a bit of international exposure. We had television stations from Japan, from Finland. We had the BBC here this year, so a lot of foreign exposure. I mentioned trade shows a minute ago. We attended 8 this year. AARP Ideas, Bay Area Travel and Adventure Show, San Diego Travel and Adventure Show, LA Travel and Adventure Show, and Fred Hall's Outdoor Fishing and Travel Show are all consumer trade shows that we attended. Then in addition, going business to business, we've attended the Orange County Concierge Association Show and the San Diego Concierge Association Show. And then we have a whole little sideline where we process the film permits for you folks. And in the past year, we processed 24 film permits representing 38 film days within the city limits of Avalon. But most of those film permits have then had a complementary component that was either conducted in the interior or at 2 harbors or something like that. So there was a longer exposure for the island, often in those film days. Oh, and our screen has gone.
Deadly's playing with it back there, I
Yeah,
think.
okay. And so we currently have a database of 114,000 households that receive email blasts that are sent out twice a month. They've opted in and agreed that they want to hear information about the island at that frequency. We operate 2 websites, CatalinaChamber.com and visitcatalina.org. The latter of those is a new microsite that we developed once we knew Whatever USA was coming here, where we put a lot of content that Bud Light then used in all of their promotional materials. That was the link back for on-island information. We did that specifically knowing that the millennial audience they were attracting was a very different demographic for us, and we wanted to deliver only the most relevant content to that different demographic versus our mainstream content that was on our very richly built, already existing site. Combined, those 2 sites delivered 2.4 million user sessions, which was steady year over year. Our page views increased year over year. Desktop usage, and that's what this graphic represents, the 3 pies, decreased 20% year over year. However, mobile usage increased 55% year over year. And recently I was speaking with you, Mayor, and I was saying that, it used to be the sort of funnel in travel making decisions started early on your mobile device, then you went to your desktop for the deeper dig, then you were maybe back on your mobile device when you were in market. That's completely leveling out in the travel planning experience now. People are doing almost 100% in mobile. That means we have to really change how we play our game. So SEO is another term of art we banner around a lot. That's search engine optimization. Through both paid search and organic search, we put considerable efforts into maintaining the right content to give ourselves the right position in anyone who's searching for what we believe to be the most key terms relative to making a decision to visit here. We also have an incredible social media effort, and Amelia, a member of my staff, is here at the back corner tonight. She's responsible for keeping a lot of that content live and relevant for those who are following us there. This year, we enjoyed 61,800 incoming messages via social media. We sent 566 outbound messages. We gained 225 new Twitter followers. We gained a very impressive 16,251 new Facebook followers. Combined, that represented 62,025 interactions, or 56,329 unique users, and delivered 8.6 million, or more than almost 8.7 million impressions. Every time I do that, I jump ahead a couple of screens after it goes black. There, okay. We've also gone through quite a bit of organizational assessment since I've gotten here, including looking at all of the contractors who provide services for us. I'm sure you at the council know we have a relatively small staff, given all that we have tasked ourselves with doing. And so we depend on contractors to help deliver a lot of those services. And on the slide in front of you is a little list of all of the contractors with whom we currently are doing business. Right at the top is one called WebLink, and some of you and I have engaged in conversations about the service they provide and some of the limitations we've been experiencing there, and you've heard me use the term CMS, or Content Management System, and database functions that they provide. Consequently, due to our frustrations with them, we've been out for an RFP in the last couple of months, and we've taken it from 8 down to 5 and now down to 2 finalists from which we will make a selection to replace that provider in the coming month or so. And another one on the list that I'll call out just to acknowledge for various conversations that have gone on in the recent year, Renegade Racing is a new contractor that was assigned by a previous contractor after they needed to leave their obligations for us, and they specifically have been brought on to run our annual triathlon in November, and they're doing a fantastic job. We're very, very pleased with how they're doing. Another area that we've given a lot of time and attention to is budget and finance. I've mentioned previously the IRS audit. That caused us to look deeply at how we do things ourselves, and as I said, we had no need for significant change. We completed later than normal, but because of the delays of that IRS audit, our audited 2013 and 14 financials. We dealt with a brief squabble on a copyright settlement with a previous contractor, but we've put that to rest. And we've looked at all of our success measures and how they relate to finances, and I'll go through that in detail on the next slide. We re-engaged once again in bringing the fireworks display to the city of Avalon, so we did that. And then we have completed our audited 2014 and 15 financials, and this year did it, I think probably one of the earliest dates we've ever done, and that was in order to be right on time with the September 1st reporting deadline that is required of us by the ordinance under which we are funded. So this pie chart is divided into a lot more parts than the other ones that I've shown you tonight, and what it represents is all the tax revenues that are really important to driving Avalon's economy. And in a nutshell, TOT, transient occupancy tax, was $4.3 million for the fiscal year. And I should point out, I'm reporting on the most up-to-date numbers received, but the city themselves is still dealing with the final month of the fiscal year, so these are not the final numbers. These are numbers as reported through May. But $4.3 million, which is an increase of 25%. Cross-channel wharfage, you all know what wharfage is, but for others that are maybe not so versed in that, every time someone steps across our wharf, there is a fee charged for doing that. So whether it's a cross-channel carrier or a cruise ship, there's a fee that's paid. So the cross-channel wharfage was $2.8 million. Admissions taxes, $734,000. That's an increase of 27%. Sales tax, $616,000. That's an increase of 18%. And the total taxes combined that we're tracking here were $9.2 million for the fiscal year. So here you see some of the other ways we measure our successes. Visitation counts, you just heard in the SCE conversation how much things are up year over year and year over 2 years for the month of August. Here in a fiscal year adjustment is a detailed look at that. On a calendar year basis, cruise passenger count saw somewhat of a decline, but that was due to the fact that most of our cruise ships call on Mondays and Tuesdays, and if you look at the calendar year, there were fewer Mondays in the calendar year this year, just the way the days of the year fell. However, on a fiscal year basis, we actually ended the year up in the number of cruise ship visitors. And cross-channel carriers were up about 5% for the same time period. I'm happy to leak that as of the last couple of days, our calculations show that for the calendar year, our combined total visitation to the island is probably going to set a record and as being the highest in all the years we've been tracking it. Okay, for those of you who are at our annual meeting, I seem to be doomed to take down PowerPoint. It's okay, we're back, but I jumped a bunch of screens ahead again. Is Jordan in the house? There he is. There. Okay. All right, I'll go quickly. Hopefully it won't die as fast on me. Annualized hotel occupancy is just under 60%. That's the highest since 2010. I will tell you, many communities consider a healthy annualized occupancy to be at 70% or better in order to make the economic nut, so I keep that carrot out there as my sort of constant goal. So, audited financials. One of the main reasons I'm here tonight is to present to you some of the results from that, and this pie chart is my attempt at simplifying that as much as possible as to how our expenses were divided up. Our auditors have reported no significant findings or discrepancies. Based on their accounting, the chart here shows allocation of dollars as they related to our overall budget. When breaking out those activities that are marketing focused, we spent just over $1.1 million promoting the destination, including a fractional share of management and overhead, versus revenue received from the city to fund that in the amount of $1,074,800. Other income and expenses were related to functions of commerce, including $3,000 in a round number that was spent on government relations. We did a postcard mailing, you've heard about that earlier this year, in support of the Vaughn's project. So that was done from earned revenue, not TOT. And going forward, we'll be working from a new chart of accounts. For the fiscal year that just began, we took our chart of accounts from about 8 pages down to 1 3/4 pages, and we created 2 overarching classifications, one for destination marketing, one for commerce. And we will partition all income and all expenses by those 2 greatest most classifications on all functions going forward. And so as I mentioned a couple of slides ago, our total revenue for the year was $1,456,000, so a significant amount above and beyond the TOT. Those audited financials have been delivered to the city manager and also shared with the finance director. And I know Bob is here. He even was going over some additional. We even posted today on our website. We decided to go full bore. We updated our website, so those audited financials are posted not only for the year just ended, but for the 2 years prior. So there's a 3-year running post on our website now. So I'll just go through some of the brief successes with Whatever USA, because obviously that was the biggest event that's happened in the last fiscal year for the island. Bud Light brought to us through that event exposure to 7.3 million Facebook fans. There were 7 million total applications. 1.7 million of those were just in the Los Angeles DMA. There were 44,000 Instagram images. 1,365 millennial guests visited the island. There were 350 day trippers. There were 2,000 locals who each paid $5 each for their access to the events. 26 hotels were used, 6 barges were used, and net zero waste. Everything that was brought in was taken out. You know that we had a Diplo premiere video. That alone garnered millions of impressions. He has a huge following. And then Snoop Dogg delivered, a nice smattering of F-bombs and other references for us all on Crescent Street. But I'm actually happy to have added him to my bucket list of performers I would probably not otherwise have gone out to see. We have been already featured in and will be continually featured in videos, TV commercials. We were covered 3 times in articles in Adweek, multiple times in the USA Today, and on multiple blog sites, including one called The Kentucky Gentleman, which I called out here. And that particular blogger is also a spokesmodel for H&M, and they actually had a whole thing where every day he would reveal a different outfit from H&M. So a lot of associative value on all of the exposure. Something that I think went by a lot of people in the community because it was sort of delivered so curtly when the folks were here from Mosaic, the event company. But they donated over, I think it was 200,000 Uber miles for future free use for patrons in bars who've had too much to drink to safely get themselves home. And they did that directly out of revenue they raised from this event here on the island.
So that sits there until we come up with some Uber driver?
No, it's not specific to our destination. It's specific to Uber. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a goodwill gesture along with what they did for our own community, obviously, with regard to Joe Machado Field. And we're black again. Okay. Just a couple of other highlights. We have had both a staff and board retreat. From those, we have revisited our mission. We've taken it from, again, a long paragraph down to something short and sweet and right to the point. The new mission statement is to attract visitors and advocate for commerce on Catalina Island. We set some very specific visions and goals, including renovating the visitor center on the pier. I know that's a subject that's important to Councilor Cassidy because she had the misfortune of visiting us in there recently and saw the need that we desperately have. Making that revitalized visitor center more of a visitor services hub. I already mentioned the new chart of accounts. Expanding our committee structure. I referenced several of those already. And in keeping with something you're going to revisit later this evening in your council goals, I noticed in the packet it's a nice match for something we set, and that was to do more and improved events and group attraction. And I saw that called out as a possible goal for you, so we would welcome your making that a goal, and we'd be happy to work in concert with you in that regard. For the fiscal year that just began, I'll give you just a couple more highlights of where we are already in the fiscal year. We're wrapping up our annual membership drive. We've gathered probably a half a dozen new members just in the recent couple of weeks. We are ramping up a volunteer program, including about to publish a brand new volunteer manual that'll be going up on our website very soon, along with a call for volunteer engagement. And we have a critical need. I'll take a moment to throw it out for anyone who wants, and our contact information is on here. We have a critical need coming up with the triathlon, where we're going to need timekeepers and people managing drink stations and so on. So would love to get these brand new and invigorated volunteers right away and going with us. Visitor guide advertising, that deadline closed today. So we'll be publishing the 2016 visitor guide toward the end of the calendar year. We're about to re-embark on our annual banner ad sales, and we've added a lot of new content pages, especially around the subject of weddings, where we'll have new opportunities for advertisers on the site. We always are looking for people to join us in our features and coupons. We do our Thursday updates, which goes out to all of our membership. We're looking for flyers and content there at any point. And then we'll be bringing, hopefully, the first year in a multi-year tact on trying to really grow our winter holiday seasonal activities and reasons to visit in one of the quietest times and one of the most beautiful times on the island, roughly from Thanksgiving through New Year's Eve. And so we're working not only with the Island Company and a handful of our merchants, but we want to really start stepping that up in the form of more decoration, more activities, and there's some exciting things already on the horizon, including probably a holiday home tour in conjunction with the hospital. Our budget for the new fiscal year has grown again. We have marked funds out of $1,596,388, so again about a $80,000 growth year over year. We'll be doing more RFPs. I mentioned the one for the content management system, but on our bucket list as well is to go out to bid for public relations, and for that aforementioned visitor demographic profile, we've actually already got a proposal that's probably from the only company we would want to do business with, but we'll go through the public process just to be sure on that before we go forward. We'll be continuing to visit our job descriptions and duties and getting them up to date and to reflect the ever-changing environment in which we're doing our jobs. We will be making our websites, the two that I mentioned, responsive. And what's that? Why do we need to do that, and what does that mean? That's making them as mobile friendly as possible. With all of the rich content that exists in a desktop environment, we want it to reference well and frame up well on a mobile device. And I showed you that chart so you know why that's important. We're well ahead of the game so far year over year on New Year's Eve ball tickets. We've sold more than we had last year at this point. We will continue with our monthly mixers, and we're adding a new program that we're calling Fixers, which are going to be more of a brown bag lunch environment where we might bring representatives from Google Maps to help you get your business referenced properly for its location and get your Google Plus account up to date. Business tax documentation and shred event is something else we're working on in conjunction with the city. We're working with a variety of stakeholders, including the city, on an emergency preparedness fixer. And then we'll continue to deliver what are called the Serve Safe programs, because waiters, waitresses, bartenders in our community need certification every couple of years to make sure they're handling everyone's food appropriately, and we always deliver those. Some of the details in our budget, just to sort of revisit something that I know is important to you, is what we've set as our goals for earned income beyond the TOT. So we've set membership dues goal of $115,000. Advertising income goal of $230,000. Marketing income, that would be the trade show partners who go out with us to all of those trade shows, at $5,000. Program service revenue, so if you come to one of our programs, Taste Around, the New Year's Eve ball, or something like that, we've set that revenue at $11,100. And we have fundraising income of $99,720, and that's kind of a big giant bucket. You know, in a year or so, we may revisit whether we want to draw that out into at least a couple line items. But we solicit donations, for example, from a handful of merchants every year before we go off to the cruise industry trade shows. And so it goes in there, and there's a variety of other things that are going in that bucket this year. On the expense side, most of our expenses are very much in keeping with what they've been the last couple of years. We just made them into bigger buckets and brought them into a smaller number of accounts to reconcile. We have added a little bit under accounting and professional services because we have now a small contract for some bookkeeping services. Our rent is going up by an inflationary index, so we grew that one. And for all the reasons I've mentioned, our consulting fees, either for those RFPs or those new contracts, and our website expense are probably the two categories where we really significantly grew our budget, and that's to do that responsive design and to be able to fund those that we are going to receive bids from. I will not go through this one in detail, and I apologize for the audience if the type is pretty small there. You see a current list of our board of directors here for the new fiscal year, and our officers below that. Pictured there is our recently outgoing chairman of the board, Bill Page, and me in the middle, and to my other side is John King, our current chairman of the board. And then I'll close here, but I just would like to leave you with a few key takeaways, please. While occupancy and visitation continue to rise year over year, we are in need of more frequent and more detailed information from the city. And this has been a point that I bring up regularly with Ben, and I'm not complaining about him. He's been very receptive to the request. But I just wanted to put it in all of your ears, too, that the data and tracking that the city does is so important to us, and it's so important to our business community that we need to really try and get on a monthly frequency of that so that we can share it back out in a timely way to them so that they can respond to what's changing in the marketplace. We also are called upon to provide that information regularly from appraisers or auditors who are working on behalf of businesses in the community where they want some benchmark for where a business is to look forward or backward. And included in those needs would be information on room nights, vacation rental occupancies, as much as we can garner that, and both the harbor mooring and anchoring details. We get great level 1 information on the harbor, but as some of you have even pointed out to me, that's sort of our biggest hotel room and that we've got, their set of hotel rooms that we've got in the community. And we're very privileged here in that we have everyone come through a gate. They either get on the Catalina Express ferry, they get on a helicopter, or they register their boat when they come into our harbor, and we have a unique opportunity to do some data tracking and get information on their length of stay, number of persons on a boat, and where they originated that we're very privileged to have. Most communities, the visitor takes exit 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 off the interstate and just sort of immerses into their community, and we've got these gateways that are great opportunities for us to get information. We want very much to be a valued partner in bringing future large events to the island and see great opportunity to do so. Likewise, we are excited for the opportunities increased dialogue with the cruise industry holds for us all. So I know you have an agenda item that relates to that, so I won't go into much more detail on that until we get to that point. And I'm done with my presentation and apologize for the black screen, and I'm happy to take any questions. I do, by the way, I received a letter that I'll just pass around, I think, rather than reading it. You're already tired of hearing from me, but this is from Nicole Hohenstein, the general manager at the Catalina Canyon Resort and Spa, and she was not able to be here tonight. She wanted to be, and she wanted to share with you some of her experience with working with us this past year.
Oh, great. I'm assuming it's positive.
Yes.
Okay. Council, do you have any comments or questions?
No, fabulous presentation. Thank you very much.
Very thorough. Does the community, comments from the community?
Is there an air show this year? There is not an air show this year. They have elected to go to an every other year frequency, and this is the off year. They were with us last year.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Jim, very much.
Thank you.
Jim.
The data tracking that he's talking about, and I know that we're all caught up and everything's going good with us, we will continue to assist in that now that we're online
Sure.
and the kind of data they need?
We'd like to get to the point where we would be able to do monthly, and we will. We've got a couple other finance priorities that probably come just a little before that, but in short order, we'll be able to do that.
Great, excellent.
And with the city finance department being totally up to date and working in real time, that will help obviously to get information and statistics over as well as financial information. So that'll certainly help you going forward.
Thank you for that comprehensive report.
Thanks, Jim.
All righty. City manager report.
None this evening, Mayor.
City attorney report.
Lots of legislation from the governor and the legislature on redevelopment. We're monitoring it. They want to grab some more money. So we're looking at that and lobbying against that. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens next month.
Council member report. Councilman Sampson?
Yeah, I just want to report that, let's see, I visited the eBus facility, which is a manufacturer of electric buses that are made right here in Bellflower, California, United States. And the city is in the progress of purchasing 3 buses through a grant that we're getting, and I think we have we need to match with $300,000, and we need to. Is that correct? That there's an excess of $300,000 that needs to be made up.
There was a matching component. I can't recall exactly how much it was, but you're right. There was a matching component.
Okay, so we went to the facility. I had some concerns, and so did that is some reservations about not about getting the buses, but just how we're going to take care of them, where we're going to charge them, what it does take to switch over from gasoline to electric. There's a lot to it, so we took our mechanics over. Ben went over with us, and Charlie Burrsmith, Derek, and also our other mechanic, and we basically had a little, the mechanics sat down with the mechanics and the builders of these buses, and they were able to understand a little more how they would have to take care of them, what types of tools that they're going to be needing, what other equipment that the warehouse is going to need to take care of these buses. We're actually looking forward to getting them. They're going to be brand new, kind of high-tech buses. They'll be handicap equipped, and it looks to me like it's going to be a really good thing. So the mechanics had big concerns because they didn't quite know what to expect, so that's why we wanted to take them over and show them the facility and how the buses are being built. And so we're in the process of basically vetting some of the concerns that our mechanics had, and also my concerns that our mechanics had. So I wanted to make sure that they were able to understand a little more how these buses are going to enter into our community and what it's going to take. Basically, I think we're going to have pretty good product support from eBus. They got a great, friendly staff, and these guys are really, really smart when it comes to this type of technology. And I'm really proud to say that we're buying buses that are made in the USA, right here in California. So we did that, and I just wanted to report that to you guys, and I believe it will be quite a few months before we see these the first bus enter the streets of Avalon, because we've got to get product support out, correct, charging facility.
Probably first quarter 16 would be my estimate.
Okay, so I'm pretty happy about that, to report that. So that's something that's coming up. And that's, oh yeah, I wanted to let the people know that the community is stricken with grief about the people that have recently passed away, especially the kids down at the Isthmus. Isthmus is a very localized and very personal community, and I want to give my condolences out to those people down there, because they lost a really beautiful young person that was just swimming, and I'm sorry about the tragedy you guys are suffering down there, and also the families of the two people, or the several people that got killed over the last few weeks here in Avalon. My condolences goes out to you, and I'd also like to say I'm kind of proud of the Harbor Department, the sheriffs, and the Coast Guard, and everybody that went out and tried to do what they do professionally, and they did a great job at it in trying to mitigate some of the just some of the longevity of the problem that was there. So anyway, I just want to say good job to our staff, and I'm sorry to the people that lost their kids the last couple of weeks. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Councilmember?
Yeah, certainly thank you, Joe, for those sentiments. In that last part of Joe's report, I'd like to ditto those sentiments. I have several things to report. One, Councilman Joe Buscaino from Los Angeles and San Pedro area visited the island last weekend. He was able to meet with several island stakeholders regarding various topics of interest. I personally was able to spend quality time with him. We're discussing enhancing partnerships between Catalina and San Pedro. I know that he also met with the chamber, and we're looking at various ways to integrate our two communities together. Staff Jordan Monroe and myself took the councilman out to Edison for a tour of the existing and the new desal plant, along with Ron Height. We had an opportunity to talk in some details regarding AQMD regulations and our existing and proposed vehicle fleets, and wanted to say thank you to Jordan and also for Ron for taking the time out to help us through that. I attended the Gateway Cities Council of Government meeting on September 2nd, as well as the Transportation Committee meeting. That Transportation Committee meeting had a overview of transportation initiatives for our region, and I've passed that information along to Audra to have for her records. I attended various events on the island, including, along with our mayor on Sunday, the Wounded Warriors Barbecue up at the Laura Stein Volunteer Camp, and that was a wonderful opportunity to meet Mike and Caleb, and want to thank everybody for their efforts in putting that together. And I also spoke to a Linda Rivkin's group of 33 students who have spent a significant amount of time this summer preparing for the SAT tests. I was able to meet them, greet, give them a few words of encouragement. And for those of you in the community that are not familiar with Linda's program, it is one of the greatest programs in our community, and please stop her at some time and ask her about her program specifically. It's really exceptional. So I was privileged to be asked to speak there. A reminder that this upcoming weekend is the annual art festival here on Front Street, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And this year, the Catalina Island Women's Forum will be holding their wine festival in conjunction with the art festival on Saturday, September 19th. It will be on South Beach between 2 and 5 p.m. Please come out and show your support. All the proceeds from that particular event go to scholarship funding for the mentoring program that the Women's Forum works with the juniors and seniors in school. And then just as a brief announcement going forward, the Women's Forum and the Art Festival will partner from this year forward, and events will happen during the same weekends. And lastly, my question to, I guess, to staff would be myself and several members of the community over the last 2 months or so have had some basic discussions about the AT&T service. And I'm not sure if staff has reached out at all to AT&T, or if there's been any discussion about upgrading towers or coverage, but I at least wanted to bring that up.
Last year had several discussions with representatives from AT&T. At that point in time, they were interested in using city property to do some upgrades. They shifted course and decided to go to property controlled by the island company, and since that time, we've not been directly engaged with them, but we certainly could reach out to them and see what the status is of their efforts. We've been more recently talking to representatives from Verizon about their service, but happy to talk to AT&T too.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I know myself and many others would greatly appreciate that, just to see if there's anything that we can do, even though AT&T used to be a larger coverage area here, and then now I've seen that it has shifted to Verizon, but any information, you probably have better contacts than I do, so thank you.
We can certainly do that, sure.
And Mayor, that concludes my report.
Very good, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, ma'am. I concur with Councilmember Sampson and Cindy's remarks about the tragedies that have taken place. But on an upper note, your Avalon High School football team is now 2-0. They traveled to the big city on Friday to play again. The Saturday down at Two Harbors was the Lions Club Brewfest. 550 people attended. The money that's raised goes to scholarships for the Avalon schools, and we want to thank all the businesses in town who contributed to the silent auction, which made it a very successful thing. And next week, week after, the end of this month, we're going to San Jose to attend the California League of Cities annual conference. I believe that Cindy's going and Andy's going and myself are going. It's used to be fun. Now it's 3 days of classes. And it's like, but it's very informative. We interact with people and we learn new things, and it's a good thing.
You've never ditched class before?
No.
Okay.
I always go to class.
Okay.
Do I need to bring signatures of the teacher?
I meant high
That's it.
school.
No.
Okay. Okay, I have a few things. Captain Federal and the city manager and I had a little ride around yesterday about some safety issues that people have been kind of concerned with. in the community, and there was an incident up in Avalon Canyon the other day where a young, not quite sure of the details, but a young woman was and a vehicle collided. She was on a bicycle. But we looked at Avalon Canyon. We also looked at Clemente, people coming down from Wrigley Terrace Road. There's children that live in that area. So we may be looking at some caution type signing as we come down from that location. We took another look at the Metropole location in front of Vaughn's. You talk about what we can do for things, and one of the things, well, maybe we put a blinking yellow light, and okay, then you go blinking yellow light, and people go, well, today it's a blinking yellow light, and tomorrow it's a stops. It's a signal. So I think we're trying to look at solutions to avoid that at this point, but as we know, in front of Vaughn's, there still is a little bit of concern when you have a larger vehicle parked there and you're coming out of the arcade or whatever, that in Vaughn's, visibility is a little tough. So we're going to be looking at that a little longer. I don't know if this is the first time I've noticed it. I apologize to the Harbor Department, but there was a harbor activity list in the Avalon Bay News, which was really extensive. And I don't notice it. Maybe there's just a lot more going on, but it was very thorough. So that was very good reading. That's not mine, but it sounds like mine. I was hoping that, what happened to our Public Works Director? Is he out of town?
He'll be back tomorrow. He's just off for a doctor's appointment today.
Okay. I did have some things that I would maybe, with concurrence of the council, I know we talked about capital improvement things not coming up until mid-year, which is like December, January, which...
We're actually going to come to you before that time period, Mayor,
Okay.
and meeting with the finance director and the prior interim CFO who's here today as well.
Okay.
We're going to be coming back before then, probably in the October timeframe, with a list of some recommendations for you to consider in the capital improvement project area.
Okay. The cameras I'm really concerned with. I kind of like to know, when we're renting these cameras, and we're doing that, I guess, kind of now, what those cost versus, because we had $50,000 in the budget for the cameras, like to look at the plus and minus, and maybe that's something we move on quicker. I don't know.
That's going to be one of the items that we recommend
Okay.
sooner than later.
Okay. And how about the flapper? I don't know.
That will also be,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Duckbill flaps with the saltwater intrusion for the wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you.
I know what you're talking about.
Oh, thank you very much. And ditto on the Wounded Warriors, which was incredible, and also for the tragedies that have hit us in the last 2 weeks.
Storm preparation.
What?
Storm preparation.
You want to talk about storm
You can
preparation?
talk about storm.
Go ahead, storm preparation.
Well, I'm just wondering, are we doing everything possible to make sure that when El Nino does show up, assuming it comes on the train and it gets here, are we ready for it?
It is an item of discussion, but we can give an update on what we are doing to prepare for that, and we're happy to do that.
Cool.
And then I would like to, maybe if we need to put it on the next agenda, talk about a special meeting date, because it appears we have special meetings, and it's getting a little frustrating that we're having to put things off, like the transportation thing, we had to put off another month. And I don't know if we can talk about a common date where we could kind of say, other than emergency meetings, but okay, it'll be a Thursday or it'll be a whatever, and so we can plan our schedules around them, because we do have a lot of issues that can't just be strung on like they are currently. So if we could put that on the agenda, or maybe people could give some feedback to Denise if they think this is something we want to do. Might make her life easier and ours as well.
Are you thinking about like one additional meeting a month, Mayor, to
Yeah,
start
like
with?
a Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon, just because stuff comes, like for transportation, for housing. If we know on a consistent basis that's where it's going to be, then we can coordinate, or we can get our vacations going around those, and probably on a council week would be a good thought. Anyway, it's not being able to move sometimes on a timely fashion is a little frustrating for me anyway. So.
Okay.
So I think that it would be some direction we bring something back for you to consider, sounds like.
Is that how we want to do it?
It's okay with me,
Okay.
absolutely.
I'm sorry, that's all I have. Okay, oral communications. This is an opportunity for the people in the community to speak on an item which is not currently on the agenda. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and no action will be taken. Do I see Ron Garcia ready to get up?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, our neighbors and friends, and those that are interested in monitoring the reefs right over here in Casino Point. Wanted to share with you that I was hoping to get information from our team who is going to be visiting the island, not to attend your October 22nd Jazz Festival, but also that would be enjoyable, but to check out the reefs at Casino Point. So here's what it's all about. The Reef Check Foundation, in partnership with Southern California Edison, actually our parent company, Edison International, adopted a reef in Catalina. The Reef Check Foundation is headquartered in Marina del Rey, and what they want to do is save reefs worldwide. And so in 2013, in a partnership again with EIX, Southern California Edison, they adopt a reef out here in Catalina Island. And one of the reasons they adopted this was that there's been some big underwater changes, and they wanted to monitor it, and they wanted to see what was happening, and they wanted to survey. Invited a bunch of divers, invited Edison employees who dive, and they all gathered for the first time in 2013 to go out to Catalina Casino Point and see what was going on down there. Of course, they found the most beautiful kelp forests, and they found beautiful species of plant life and crystal blue waters. But on top of that, they saw some changes that they wanted to keep track of. So, October 3rd, this coming month, again at Casino Point, I think it's by the corner of the casino building over there. You know more about it, I'm sure, because you've been through this before. We're going to gather again. All divers are welcome. Bring their own equipment. 8:30 is the start time. If you come late or early, you'll be worked into the survey. There's also a way to check in with Colleen at reefcheck.organization. It should be a fun day. Not only will we survey the reefs out there, but we'll give conservation tips on how to maintain the reefs and education on what we're doing out there. So a fun day for families, divers, and all who want to protect the reefs at Catalina. Thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure and invite Dr. Bill Bushing out there, because he's very informative.
Dr. whom?
Bill Bushing.
Will do. Thank you.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Mayor, before we get too far along, just wanted to suggest that maybe you consider taking the hospital agenda first. And if you already were thinking that, apologies.
No, not a problem at all. Okay, other comments from the community? Okay. The consent calendar.
Yes, Mayor, 5 items on the consent calendar.
Or do you want to do it before the consent?
Well, it might be nice, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all righty. Then we will take item number, where are you?
It's a separate agenda.
Oh, separate agenda, okay. Oh, duh. Okay.
Let me get there too. Hang on a second. Okay.
We need to open the meeting.
We can open the meeting. You ready to open the meeting? I'll open the meeting.
You open the meeting, thank you.
I'd like to call to order the Avalon Municipal Hospital Board of Trustees meetings of Tuesday, September 15th. And can we have a roll call?
Trustee Cassidy?
Here.
Trustee Marshall?
Here?
Trustee Sampson?
Here.
And Chairman Olson?
Here.
And for the record, Trustee Hernandez is absent.
Announcements.
I have none this evening.
Written communication.
None that I'm aware of.
I think we have a presentation.
We do. This evening we have an update from the Catalina Island Medical Center CEO, Brian Ballard. Mr. Ballard is here. He will deliver the presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, trustees, staff. I was listening to Jim's very complete report, and he was describing all the changes that have occurred with the chamber over the past year. And I was kind of thinking, over the last couple of months, it seems like we had maybe a year full of changes just in the last few months. So tonight, there's just 2 items, however, with all of that that's taken place that I do want to describe to you. The first one is, we've talked here, and you've seen in the paper, the fact that the board has commissioned a community needs assessment and a facilities exploration project. Sounds like a lot of words, but essentially what the board wants to do is to be able to hear what the community has to say in terms of what it thinks its priorities for the community with respect to health are. So what are the services we're providing we could provide more of? What are some services that we're not providing that we need to pay attention to? And then the study will also get into different demographic aspects of our community, whether that's dealing with diabetes or environmental issues or such as that the hospital needs to be paying attention to. So the approach that we're taking on this, rather than surveying the community per se, is it's all focus groups. And we have a lot of focus groups that are working. So the details I want to give you on this are that there's essentially going to be 3 different settings, if you will, that different people in our community will be able to participate. So the first group, there is a targeted letter that was sent to individual business members of our community and leadership of our community for a specific focus group that's taking place as specified in your individual letter. And so you have the opportunity to participate in that. The request is, if for whatever reason that you're not able to meet at that appointed time, if you'll either let myself or Debbie Phelps know in our office that you have a conflict, we will do our dead level best to be able to get you plugged into another session, because we want to get more information rather than less. And so it may be a different group that you would be in, but it's important that you have an opportunity to be able to talk about that. The second area then that the community will be able to participate is we've targeted some of the neighborhoods that kind of come to mind when we talk about our neighborhoods. So we talk about Tremont, we talk about Hamilton Cove, we talk about Bird Park, Eucalyptus and such. So there's a letter that has been sent to either the manager or the president or whoever the designated leader is in those particular neighborhoods, in which we've asked that individual then to get the word out to its neighborhood for a particular meeting at a designated time. So that's the second element for participation. And then the third area is we have 2 community-wide forums. So if you didn't get a letter, we still want to know about you, but there's only so many letters that we've sent out. And so these are invitations to the community-wide to participate in one of 2 sessions. And these dates will be in the articles that will be in this week's paper and in the ads and such. But I would just say for the community-wide invitations, the first one is on Tuesday, September 22nd, from 1 to 2:30 in the Founders Room at US Bank. And the second one is on Wednesday, the 23rd, from 7 to 8:30 in the Bay Room up at the Country Club. When all of this is processed, then the AMDC board will be getting a report as to what those findings are, and they will then be able to use that as kind of a roadmap for the near term as far as looking at health priorities, but also it's a small step, but it's the first step as we start looking at what do we do with the existing facility to meet 2030 seismic compliance, because the facility as it exists now absolutely has to be modified or deactivated to use as an acute care facility. So the second item then I want to talk to you about is the medical staff. And I feel like we've had a perfect storm that has occurred in the lives of two of our physicians, Drs. Monty Mellon and Dr. Tracy Norton. Both of those individuals, regrettably, are going to be leaving our community. There's not anything that's happening at the hospital other than a lot of hand-wringing over the fact that we are losing 2 key members of our staff. But there are things that occurred in their personal lives or professional lives that are causing them to leave. So Dr. Mellon, I recruited him 6 years ago from San Diego, and he was very involved with the Sharp Hospital System. Coronado had a very distinguished career as a medical corps officer with the Navy. I think those of us who have experienced him, most of us have experienced all of our physicians in different care modes. He's just done a tremendous job. Regrettably, Dr. Mellon has a family situation in which the attributes he has of compassion and caring are being called upon to return to San Diego to care for family members. So when you understand that type of a calling, then I think in most people's minds that erases any doubt as to anything that might be going on. It's just him meeting his responsibility for his family. We are going to have a farewell for Dr. Mellon. It's going to be at the Nickel. It'll be at the Nickel on the Thursday, the 24th of October at 6 o'clock. It'll be a no-host bar with appetizers. And so we absolutely invite the community to attend this event, to give your best wishes to Dr. Mellon and to express your gratitude to him for his 6 years of service with us. So then, Dr. Norton. So Dr. Norton, let's see, I recruited her from USC Keck School of Medicine, where she was the medical director for 7 years. Dr. Norton has been with us for 7 years. The two loves in Dr. Norton's life are caring for the residents of Avalon and direct patient care, but also education. And she had just a fantastic reputation at USC when I was able to bring her here. There is a plum opportunity that has presented itself out in the Pasadena area where there's a group of hospitals that are going to be forming a family practice residency program. And Tracy has been recruited to go and provide the leadership to put that residency program together. And those of you who know Tracy on a personal basis can appreciate the fact that she really struggled with that decision because of her love for the island. So we're going to wish Tracy our best wishes as well. She absolutely will do great. We have not announced a departure date, or I'm sorry, we haven't announced a reception for her yet. She will be leaving at the end of November, so we still have a little bit of time to be able to schedule something to extend our farewell wishes to Tracy. For the community then, hearing that 2 out of 3 of our medical staff members are leaving the community, first question is, so what are we doing to provide coverage? Well, I'm pleased to tell you that indeed we do have coverage through the end of this calendar year. There are 2 physicians in particular that I've been working with. Both of them have extensive, strong emergency medicine backgrounds. One is the regional director for Mercy Air in the greater San Diego area. One of them has academic ties to UC San Diego. The other has ties to UCI. And so with Dr. Mellon's position, rather than bringing a full-time resident physician to live on the island, I'm looking at splitting his position between these 2 because I think the gains of what we bring to the island with their emergency medicine background, coupled with their connections with these university medical programs, that represents greater gain for us. We have the potential to strengthen the number of specialty physicians to come to the island, to try and start reducing the number of trips that have to be made across town. There's also some talk about the possibility of UCI wanting to expand a family practice medicine residency rotation onto the island, just the same as the hospital has had for many years with Downey Regional Medical Center. So when I look at residency, that's kind of out there. That would be nice to have. It'd be nice to have the specialties, but we most of all want to make sure that we've got good caliber physicians on the island to care for us as residents. Then for filling Tracy's position, I've engaged a national recruiter to find a family practice boarded, ideally emergency medicine boarded physician as well, who would be a full-time resident on the island to become a part of our culture, our life, to be able to have the curbstone contact that bonds at 10 o'clock on Saturday night, or however those things play out in our community. But I do think that it's critical that the bulk of our medical staff strongly identify with our community and have a presence in the community. So that's the plan for those, addressing those 2 positions. So again, we have coverage until the end of the year. I'm expecting the coverage that we have until the end of the year is also going to transfer over into the rest of the year as well. But that, as I think you can understand, is not absolutely pinned down right now. The first thing was to get the next couple of months taken care of, and I think we've done that. So it's a lot of change, but I think those who have been on the island for a period of time know that change is constant, and you'll reflect back when Dr. Gleber was here and she left, and when Dr. Trottier was here and certainly had a large following and was appreciated, and he left, the hospital, the board, the medical staff kept moving ahead, and so the plans are to enable that to return. On the one hand, I wasn't looking for these kind of challenges when I was invited to come and participate, but on the other hand, I said that maybe it's fortuitous because I do have the history of having started with the 3 physicians to get that in place, and so I hope it's just going to be a continuation of what was started back in 2007. So, 2 items I wanted to report to you on. If there's any questions about those 2 items or anything else in the life of the hospital, I'd be pleased to respond to it.
Questions? Questions?
No.
Audience, any questions?
I just have a little question on the needs assessment. You know, we're going to move forward on a recreational needs assessment, so I think the concept and the way you're doing it is really wonderful, and we'll probably learn from you a little bit on as we move forward. However, I want to ask the question, is this going to be done in English and Spanish when you do your focus groups at Tremont and those kind of places?
Okay, I can't respond to the neighborhoods, but I can respond this way, Mayor, and that is our very first session is going to be Sunday evening. And there is a particular audience that I know the board has been interested in reaching for years, and I think we have finally broken the code and we're going to reach it. And that is, I'm sure there's many members of our community know that St. Catherine's has essentially a Spanish parish that is Sunday evening from roughly 6:30 to 7:30. And so we absolutely are going to be meeting this coming Sunday after their Mass is complete to be able to have our facilitator to work with that group. And we were looking for somebody else to translate, and in fact had identified someone, but the thought occurred that perhaps Father Peroni, his newness to the community, there are many members of the cloth who very much want to be a part of their congregation as they address either housing or food or health, as the case may be. And so when I talked with Dr. Peroni earlier today, he gladly indicated that he would welcome that. He would like to do that.
That's great. Thank you. That's
welcome.
awesome. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. So Dr. Millen's party is a week from Thursday at 6 o'clock at Buffalo Nickel.
That's right. No host with appetizers.
It says light appetizers. Light appetizers.
Light appetizers.
Light appetizers.
We're not judging how much you're eating, Holy.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate the complete report. That's
There
great.
will be a limit, though. Just for him.
Oral communications. The Board of Trustees will accept comments from the public at this time. No action will be taken on non-agenda items at this meeting. Speakers should limit their comments to 3 minutes or less. Would anybody like to flock to the podium here? Just run around. Oh, Michael. Thank you, Michael.
Just once again, as chairman of the board of the hospital, to remind you that we did invite you to the October board retreat. I know some of you won't be able to come because you're going to be coming back from San Jose, but those people with foundation, the auxiliary, and trustees that can make it, we would love to have you there. Thanks.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, thank you.
We have a consent calendar.
Yes, 2 items this evening. Actions from the August 18th meeting, as well as the CEO and CFO's reports dated August 21st and July 2015, respectively.
I will abstain from voting on the actions of the 18th as I was not here. Council have any desire to remove anything or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as it stands.
Second?
Second. Any discussion? Public? Call for the question.
4 ayes, 1 absent. Trustee Hernandez.
And 1 abstention on item 1. General business?
None.
Chair's report? None. Members' report?
I have none.
None. We're adjourned. Back to you.
Thank you. Okay, let me see. Alrighty, now let's go to the consent calendar.
Okay.
Wait,
yes.
where's Brian leaving?
Wait.
You can't go.
See you later.
Thanks, Brian. Michael?
Yes, going back to the consent calendar, 5 items this evening. I'll run through them quickly. Actions from the September 1st meeting, expenditures for approval, 1.2 million approximately in warrants, 64,000 in EFTs, 2 payrolls totaling $432,000 roughly for total expenditure of 1.7 million. We have excuse me.
We're skipping number 3. We're going to move that to the action calendar since
Well, because
it's
it is a public hearing. Got it. Thank you. Number 4 is a resolution for surrender and abandoned vessel exchange grant, totaling $32,400. Number 5 is a request for funding for an emergency repair for a centrifuge at the wastewater treatment plant. And that is it. There is that one other item that's moving to general business for the public hearing.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the council?
Make a motion to approve items 1, 2, 4, and 5, consent calendar.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments by the community? Call for the vote.
And just for the record,
Yes.
on item number 2, to the extent that Councilmember Cassidy receives income from some of the companies in there, she's abstaining from approving those warrants. I don't know if there are any.
There are none.
Okay.
Okay,
Very good.
all righty. Okay, so we're voting on 1, 2,
4 and 5.
4 and 5. Call for the vote.
All ayes. One
job,
absent.
Brian.
And now that we've concluded that, I just wanted to thank the city attorney for his changes to the action items and clarifications as to abstentions at the last council meeting. Thank you for that.
Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing to receive comment on the city's proposed CDBG funded project to construct an elevator at the Beacon Hill Senior Apartment Complex.
Yes, Mayor, and if I could maybe ask Audra to give a brief report on this so that folks know what's going on with this item. Thank you, Audra.
Good evening, Council. As you recall, in May, we held I presented a PowerPoint that talked about the city's CDBG funds, the restrictions of those CDBG funds. As a result of a conversation with the mayor and Thomas Saffron, it was suggested that perhaps we look into constructing an elevator lift at the senior housing complex. There is none right now. We moved forward with that suggestion from the mayor and met with Thomas Saffron representatives. They put together a plan, and we are happy to say we are ready to get your approval and any input after the public hearing to move forward with the next step in the process, which would be to develop an RFP. We're required to have a public hearing as part of the CDBG requirements. So Dave Fisher from Thomas Saffron is here. He's the project manager on this, if that's correct, and Michelle, who manages the complex, and they've been very supportive and are super excited about the prospect of making this an accessible facility. So I think we'll take any public comment.
Okay. The public hearing is now open. Does anybody from the community like to speak on this project? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. And council, comments or questions?
I think this is great. I'm fully supportive. I'm glad we're moving forward and anxious to see this underway.
Yes, great. And for those who haven't seen the drawing, it looks, however they did that, it looks like it's always been there. It was just meant to be. So thank you very much, Audra and staff and everyone for working on that.
I'd like to ask, so this is going to be $100,000 plus. Is that what it's saying? And it's budgeted?
The original projected estimated budget is about $80,000. That's where we were going to go with it, but we went ahead and made the budget $100,000 because that's the CDBG funds that are available to the city. So if perhaps when the bids come in, they're a little bit higher, there's no city funds that are being utilized. It's all community development block grant money.
Okay. Let me ask you, and maybe this is more for Saffron, this question, but is this facility at the senior center, is it the recreation facility there? We call it the seniors conference room, I don't know what you call it. Is that place open to the public for the senior citizens of Avalon?
I'm going to defer to Michelle
Okay.
on that one, or Dave.
Yes, it is.
It is open to the public. So how does the public go, the seniors of Avalon, because I've had some concerns from community about that particular room. You're welcome to come up to the microphone if you'd like to speak. Yeah, I've had some concerns about some people here in Avalon about the room and its availability towards the public, to senior citizens of Avalon. And I'm just concerned that maybe we ought to broaden the availability towards the people, because I feel that it's being a little bit constricted, because the seniors of Avalon do not have a lot of places to meet. Right now, they're using churches, and we're very grateful for the churches that are allowing them to meet. But can you address that in any way, shape, or form?
Absolutely. I think that's actually a separate issue from the elevator, however.
It is, okay.
But we do have two separate rooms there. One is in the lower level that goes down a flight of stairs into the basement, which is a meeting room down there. The seniors seem to have a preference to use the community room that's up above on the garden or courtyard level, and we've used that on numerous occasions. I do understand that they've been meeting at other locations, including churches, but they're certainly welcome to meet in our room. That was the original intent. I think we had an agreement with the city that that would be something that we would do, and we're more than happy to have them meet there.
Okay.
There is no restriction at all on the use of that.
There isn't, okay.
No,
Well, I
there
want
is
to let you
not.
know that I have had some complaints recently about that place is not being utilized as it should be for the seniors of Avalon, and I just want to let you know that it's really important that you open that up and allow people to know that they're welcome to meet there. And I understand you might have, you keep that place in tip-top shape and everything, and I understand the seniors of Avalon really need that for you to maybe be a little more open as to the uses and the needs of the community. That would be grateful. We'd be grateful, and the people that I represent would be grateful if you could do that for them.
Certainly, we absolutely support that use, and we'll be happy to
Okay, now
welcome
who
them.
they talk to actually book that? Was that you,
They would
Michelle?
talk to Michelle, the
Okay.
resident manager there.
Okay,
Yes.
great. I appreciate that, and I'll put the word out that people can go to you guys, and you might be a little more open to allowing groups
Absolutely.
to come in and meet there.
Absolutely.
Okay, that would be.
As to the elevator issue, we're excited about that, grateful for the city's support of the block grant funds for that, and I think the design is exceptional.
Mhm.
It's going to be a great addition to that building and make it much more accessible, so we thank you for that.
Yeah, no, they stop us all the time. When's that coming? You know, you got Dark trying to walk up the stairs and he stops at the top for 10 or 15 minutes. And anyway, it's going to be a great day. We're going to have a big giant ribbon to cut.
Thank you.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you, and thank you for your comments, Joe.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Want a motion?
sure, let's make a motion.
Oh, have we opened the public hearing?
Yes,
Yeah,
we
we
did.
opened and closed it.
And we
They
closed
closed
it.
Time ago.
Okay, sorry.
You can't bill for that time. You can't bill for that 15 minutes. You have to be alert.
I'm not going to let you go on that appetizer comment.
Move to authorize staff to commence a public bid for the construction of an elevator at the Beacon Hills Senior Apartments Complex utilizing an allocation of CBDD block grant funds.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call for the vote.
4 ayes and 1 absent. Councilmember Hernandez.
In general business.
Yes, Mayor, I'm going to request that we do an AV switch so that the vehicle clerk can come out for this item, because the first item that we have for your consideration this evening is a proposed transfer of a permit for ghost tours from the business formerly operated by Doug Lord. I know that the applicant, Mr. Ian Alexander, is here with us this evening, but I'd like first if we could have a brief presentation from the vehicle clerk on this item, and then the applicant is here if you'd like to have any questions of him.
Thank you.
We received an application on August 21st from Ghost Tours of Catalina, who want to do business as Tour Catalina, which was an operation that was performed by Doug Lord in the past. The application states that they'd like to continue doing what Mr. Lord was doing. There were a few changes in his permit over the years, so I'll be happy to discuss those with you if you have any questions from the information in front of you. Excuse me. We recommend that you approve the application and transfer, but first with some discussion about safety and things in general with the electric bicycles here in town. And I'm here to answer any questions if you have some. Thank you.
Thank you, Dudley.
I think Ian is in the audience this evening.
Yes, he is.
And he was going to bring a map so you would see the routes, as well as any kind of communication from the island company verifying that they were able to go on their roads.
Council, how you guys doing? I went ahead and brought a map for you guys to go ahead. You know, essentially we're going to use the same exact routes. There's no change in business. I mean, this is the exact routes that Doug used in the past. So, I mean, but I went ahead and drew up a map of, I got a map of from the chamber of our city here. And if you guys want to go ahead and look at it, but essentially it's just using the city streets. I don't have any written agreement from the island company as of right now. I believe Patrick wanted to, was speculating using the horse trail, and he had an intention of doing some kind of thing with that, and that's where he was going. But as far as, you know, I don't see that in our future until 2016 at least. So as of right now, we're just going to keep the operations just how it is.
How many vehicles are there?
20.
Was it 24?
Well,
20.
what I'm seeing here is you're listing 20.
20? Okay. And then the same routes, and you guys have the same training program? I mean,
Same everything,
Yeah.
exactly. I believe the only thing that's going to be different is improvement in safety equipment. We bought new helmets and whatnot for that because I think people, agents for us, selling for us was concerned about that. But other than that, everything's pretty much the same.
Great, as long as you can make a smooth transition into the community, just like the other Segways used to operate. They were really pretty good about mixing in with the traffic and the pedestrians when the traffic-sensitive areas where you guys go. Because I got a similar thing going on with the pedicab. It's like you really got to watch what other people are doing. So you guys have, so far that business has seemed like it's operated function pretty good within the community, and I think if you continue to do that, absolutely, it's a recipe for success, and people actually need that. It's a kind of an important little transportation service because there's a lot of people that aren't able to walk around town, and I'm sure that would help out a little bit for that. So as long as you can keep that up, I think it'd be a good thing for you, I think.
I have two quick questions. One, I just want to make sure, because we're looking at an old agreement, the transportation permit from 2011, and then we're looking at the amendment from October 4th, 2011 council actions. So I just want to make sure that the permit actually allows rental sales from dusk till dawn, or from dawn till dusk, sorry, not from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
That is correct.
Okay.
It's from.
Okay, and then could you just clarify for me that where will you be renting these from? It's not the Pebbly Beach location, it is behind the green building
228 Metropole Street, yeah.
on Metropole. Okay.
So it's off the beaten path a little bit, but it provides an area in the back for our customers to go ahead and try out the bikes, which is not on a public street right away. So that's that's actually an advantage, I think, to them.
Okay, and then Denise, do you know, or Dudley, actually, I'm sorry, either one, do they need, in general, do these tours need approval from the island company?
Well, I'm not planning on doing any tours as of right now. I was just go ahead. I was just letting her know that I didn't have any written confirmation to use their, their road. I think Pat had an intention of using the horse trail, but that's not going to be in this.
But not even just that, I'm talking about Hog's Back and, or is that all included as part of it?
When the previous owner had come before council, it was because of the horse trail and going up over Hog's Back, correct, Dudley? And so the council had requested that permission was being granted by the Island Company.
Yeah,
And Patrick, or Ian, the only reason that I was asking for a map because it was a previous council and I wanted them to be aware of the roads that were being approved.
Sure. Actually, I talked to Collier, which is the vice president of tours and whatnot, and he actually said he'd be able to get me a written consent as well. I just don't have it here today because he's a busy man right now.
I just want to make sure that you're held to the same requirements as all the other companies, and if they're required to have a written authorization from the Island Company to allow the bikes to go over Hog's Back and over Wrigley Terrace Road or whatnot, just that you're in line with everyone else's permit. So that shouldn't be a problem.
Do you have security? The security bikes that you go out and patrol with to make sure people are abiding by the laws?
I believe that is one in the stipulation.
Okay, yeah, that would be a good idea, because I have seen bikes just fly through stop signs, and kind of go a little bit crazy sometimes. I mean, so make sure that you got a security and a safety element in place. Maybe some kind of a policy that you write out and make sure that you abide by that, and the people on the bikes abide by that, or maybe, and you have somebody out watching when you have all the bikes out, or, because that's kind of important.
Yeah, no, understand.
You guys do blend in with the community. Dudley.
Just as a note, a road you don't think of as Island Company, you think of Hog's Back, you think of Three Palms. But also the bottom of Country Club Hill all the way to the Catalina Canyon Resort is Island Company. So that accesses a lot of our streets. So that's just an amendment to that.
Joe, thank you for bringing up the security bike. That bike sat in front of the Catalina rafting for 2 years and never went out to patrol to see if they were following the rules. So if that is part of the agreement, then I think that needs to be followed and they need to go out and watch their bikes.
I want to say that I think for some reason, wasn't Doug Lord's business the one that had to do the patrol, Dudley, or were all of them issued that?
No,
Just his, so they all have to conform with the security policy or some kind of a safety policy?
I believe the only one that was held to that was Doug's operation, because he was the first one to really operate a large number of bikes, even though I think Brown's Bikes had the okay to do it, they weren't operating them. The barge only had 12 bikes, but it would be a good idea for all of them to keep an eye on, especially the speeds. When the first guy that came in front of us with the barge, Dave Hubert, the council at that time was very concerned about speeds, and they beat that up for I don't know how many meetings. After that, none of the councils really talked about speeds at all. So that might be something you want to look at also.
Yeah, do you guys have a written safety policy yet for your business?
Yeah, actually, we have one we have one written up. I could give you guys a copy if you guys would like. But yeah, just for you guys to know, in the state of California, electric bike has to be 750 watts or less, 20 miles per hour or under. 20 miles per hour is the maximum speed, with the rider of 170 pounds being on level ground, unassisted pedaling. So we tend to follow all of those rules and guidelines.
Do you get a deposit from your riders?
Well, we're going to be taking credit card information. That's good enough for a deposit.
Well, I share Joe's concern that the fact that stop signs don't mean anything to bike riders. And living on Rilla and walking up and down that street a lot, I see some people, they're doing more than 20 miles because they are going down a steep hill. And the stop sign at the bottom is kind of advisory, I think. And
20 miles on the level ground, unassisted, 170 miles.
But gravity comes into play.
Well, that's not level ground, so it's actually okay to go a little, but it's requires for the speed. I'm talking about the overall speed of the bike.
It might be legal for the state.
But we plan on following all the rules.
I think you understand our concern, though, right? Just people.
Of course.
people
Yeah,
being-
no, safety is one of our main issues. It's in the beginning in this, and obviously we don't want to have people getting hurt out there. And obviously what we've seen lately in our community that everything is a very serious accident, and we have to start paying attention to what's going on in the community. And it could tragedy can happen anywhere. So we're looking into that as well, making sure that tragedy won't be happening in this case.
So we're stressing this, the safety policy. Maybe you guys have a security patrol, which would be a good idea. I would definitely, that's something that I would. I don't know if I would say it would be a condition of approval. I'd give that to the council to consider, but I would definitely say that our community is largely impacted. I know these are things you already know. They're largely impacted, and I can't stress enough, owning a little tour business myself, that and it's transportation related. It's really important that the people that you rent the bikes to understand we don't want them getting hurt, but also all the little kids running around, the older people that can't get out of the way quick enough, and then just people dodging in and out of traffic. We want to make sure that you guys can somehow stress that these people that rent from you really have to be, going into the future, we want to make sure that they understand that they have to understand when you're around the impacted area in Avalon that they should be really careful and stop the stop signs. Just have them do that, and that would be a really good thing, because then we don't have to worry about that. And if it is a problem, we'll have to, if we get some complaints, we'll have to bring that to you. But we're not there yet. I'm going to take it into consideration that you're going to go ahead and go ahead with these policies, because it will be your business that suffers the most if there is a problem or an accident or something. But we're going to hope that's not going to happen, and we're going to do all we can up here to make sure that doesn't happen if we have to implement policies related to those bikes, okay?
No,
So-
Will you also be doing retail sales?
As of right now, we're not planning on doing any retail sales.
Okay, all right. And secondly, and excuse my ignorance, Segways can go on sidewalks and streets, is that correct?
This is not Segways. Bicycles.
Oh.
Segways can, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Electric bicycles.
Yeah, okay, boy, I'm doing
I was
good.
confused there for a
Okay,
minute, too.
Thank you. I get them mixed up.
Yeah, we're
All right,
back, sir.
never mind. Sorry for the dumb question.
I have a question for the city attorney.
Yes, you can ask a
Mr.
question.
City Attorney, sir, I know this permit's issued for 3 years with possibility to renew at the end. Is it possible to review the conditions annually?
If you put that on as a condition, yes.
Okay. I'd like to add that condition to this permit, that we review the conditions annually and see if something changes.
Okay. Excuse me, Dudley?
Is that for all vehicles, or?
Just this particular transportation permit.
Oh, this particular one, okay.
You just want to hold it, this one company to that?
It's the first one, only one we're discussing this evening.
Okay, I'm just asking, because
Yeah, no,
I want to know who I'm going to be reviewing yearly instead of every 3 years.
Yeah.
for this.
I think we should get around to reviewing the conditions on an annual basis for all of these types of operations in Avalon, but we can't get at them until we get at them.
So you want to review all transportation permits yearly? I mean, if that's something we're going to...
No, not tonight, right?
No, not tonight. This is just in regards to this particular
wanna clarify.
application.
In all due respect, we'd like to be able to follow the same rules as everybody else and have them, be on the same, pretty much, if everybody else, you know what I'm saying?
The next time we get it, the other one, we'll add that condition.
All right, I appreciate that.
All right, comments, further comments? Okay, council? Whoops.
Michael's running.
Okay.
Because I never get to speak about this for years. I just want to make sure that they realize that they're on an electric bike, that anyone on an electric bike has to wear a helmet. That is the state law, and we need to make sure that that is being followed. Right now, it's hit and miss, but it needs to make sure that all the electric bikes, if it has a motor, they have to wear the helmet. No matter how old they are, they have to wear the helmet.
That's one of the conditions.
Great. Okay. Are there further comments, council?
I'm not sure about
Okay.
this, reviewing the transportation permit on an annual basis. For this particular business, is there any reason for that?
We've been talking transportation for 2 years and we haven't gone any place. This way gets us a chance to get, as the permits come up, we can review them. If, you know, it might just be a consent item. But if something starts to happen, we don't want to sit around and have to wait for 3 years until we get at the transportation permit.
Yeah, but we can review those at any given time, correct? A transportation permit, can we, or is it?
Yeah, if there's a
problem?
reason, you can consider revocation or modification of that permit. If something happens, you could ask that person to come.
And
for
I
you.
think it's more work for the staff too, if we have to do this, and they haven't done anything yet to not have our trust. I mean, I believe that they deserve the same respect as any other business with a transportation permit. But if you have a strong enough argument about it, I would definitely respect that.
I would have asked to amend transportation permit for anybody we get up here to add an annual review, just in case. I mean,
what does that include anyways, an annual review?
it's you ask fire department how many accidents you have, and you say, oh, go for it. Or if, you know, people are crashing coming down from Three Palms, or people are taking people out at the bottom of Morrill, or people taking people out in front of the Busy Bee, or in front of the Picnic Fry.
Yeah, but that hasn't happened yet with this.
Oh, I've seen people go around the corner at the Picnic Fry and take out pedestrians.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Huh.
it's the old stop sign.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it does is it makes the business more responsible if they know that their ability to do business can be restricted if their customers behave badly. And part of it is to put some teeth in that the rules they tell their customers about, you know, stop at the stop signs, maintain your speed, you know, don't cut off pedestrians, watch out for crosswalks, all that good kind of stuff.
But if we're going to do it for them, shouldn't we do it for all?
That's what he's talking about is eventually moving everybody to that, but we're only hearing this item
Okay.
tonight, so we're starting with this one, and then potentially as we go into transportation review and some of those particular study sessions, we'll be talking about bringing them all in. But since he's here tonight, if we agree to go annual with this one, it's one less set of letters that need to go out. When we have a transportation review that's coming in less than a month, and I'm not sure if this item will be on that particular meeting or not.
Okay, if we decide to go ahead and do that in our transportation study, I can go along with this, but as far as right now, I think I need to have some kind of an incident, or I don't feel strongly enough to not allow them the same courtesy that we allow any other business, and that is, it's a 3-year transportation permit. If there's a problem right now with all these transportation permits that we have and the bikes in general, I would say yes, but I'd say let's let the guy do business, and if we have a problem with it, let's back it off. But I would like to see these guys have for free hand at doing business just like everybody else does. It seems to work right now, and then we can revoke it. Or what we can do is if they're good for, let's say, the first year, I think we need to consider giving them the same transportation permit lease that we do with everybody else. Let's give them a year. And we review it, and if they do okay, then let's give them the 3-year extension, because that's just more staff time that we're going to have to go through every year, and we already have a problem with this particular enforcement right now. So I'd say, yeah, maybe a year. If he does okay, there's no incidences, there's no accidents, there's no problems. I'd say let's give them the 3 years, unless we change it in our transportation study. But I think it's a pretty good thing right now.
So you're saying have them come back at the end of the year, review the operation for the year?
And if so,
okay,
let's give him the 3 years. Because I just don't feel right about him not having the same contract as other people do in this town.
Well, and is there
For
a way?
no reason.
Yes. Is there a way to get either from sheriffs or from paramedics hospital how many electric bike incidents there are? I mean, do we kind of know that somebody knows that? Yeah. And let me ask the other folks that have the electric bikes, when is their contract up? Permit up? If it's a 3-year, where are you where is everybody else in the chain?
We just did that about a month ago. So
Oh, okay.
we've completed the 3-year one, so we've got another
It's
3
just
years.
back
The
up.
cycle's starting again.
Okay, so it's, okay.
That way, with this particular business, we would know whether or not you're serious about, which I know you are, because you're a businessman, about your security and your safety program. That's top notch. That's going to be something that's why I'm saying I want to make sure that you got that in order, and you have, you have a safety program with your company, as far in a training program and a security program. And then after a year, if it's all good, and there's not any overwhelming problems, I don't see why we can't give you the same 3-year contract unless it changes in our transportation study. Is that
Okay, so
sound
I
fair?
think.
I'm good with that.
Okay. Did you already start with the motion and now okay, is there a motion? Did you put that in the form of a motion?
Yeah, I will put that in the motion. That we approve, do we have?
Application and transfer?
Yeah, application of transfer for transportation permit for Ghost Tours, DBA, Tour Catalina electric bikes, approve application after discussion, but not limited to routes, hours, operation, safety gear, helmets, patrol, bikes, and vehicle, maximum speeds, etc. And then the only change would be the 1 year that will bring the transportation permit back, and we'll look at it, and if it's okay, we approve for the 3 years, just like everybody else.
Before you come up with terms and conditions, though, just you want to add that they need to come up with something that says they can travel over Island Company roads before you.
Oh, that's, yes.
Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which, that should be a fairly easy one.
Yeah, I think you just put that on your insurance as, an extra, write them in, a write on your insurance. So that's on the
Okay,
table.
there's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second?
And I just want to add that, Ian, I know that you're feeling a little bit frustrated about that condition of 1 year, but from my perspective, this is a new business for you that you're embarking on, and while I think both you and Patrick are wonderful businessmen, and I think you do a great job, you take good care of your employees, you take good care of the customers, this is a new business, and it is a safety sensitive type of business. So, I'd love to see you back here next year saying we've had no incidents, everything's been great. There has been some issues with the prior purveyor of this. So come in, show us it's great, and we'll move forward. But please don't take that personally in any way.
All right, call for the vote.
4 ayes and 1 absent.
Okay, item number 7.
Yes, item number 7 is proposed public transportation program plan for our fixed route, dial-a-ride, paratransit, and taxi voucher program. As you know, a few months back, you authorized the hiring of Roy from AMMA to assist us in trying to determine what our needs are as we develop an RFP for transportation services, with working closely with Audra, also with the existing transportation provider. Roy has gathered that up, and we'd like to present that to you this evening as we move forward in trying to launch the RFP process in the next few months. So, Audra?
Yes, thank you, and hello again, Council. Ben summed it up very well. Just to let the public know that Roy and myself did meet with the City Council in individual groups to get your input on what you wanted to see in the RFP and what the transportation system is going to look like in the future. This is pairing up with our new buses that we'll be taking on very soon, as Councilmember Sampson mentioned. And Roy has been working very hard to try and condense a very complicated issue into something that's fairly easy to follow. So the goal tonight is to have Roy present a presentation to all of you, and then receive any feedback from you all, and then come back with the RFP. So I'd like to introduce Roy Gauthier.
Thank you, Roger. And good evening, Mayor Marshall and members of the council. You did hire us back in early May to assist the city in preparing and then helping go through the competitive bid process for a new management firm for the public transportation program sponsored by the city. As part of that, we wanted to look at the actual services being provided by the city so that we can clearly define what the contractor is to deliver. Transportation is part of one of your priorities, as shown here by some of the citations out of your Avalon Vision 2020. We did meet with the council individually back in June and talk to you about what you wanted to see in this plan, what you felt public transportation should be doing for the residents of Avalon. And what I heard back from those conversations, trying to boil them down, you clearly said that public transportation should be addressing the daily needs of residents. Right behind that, you also said that public transportation should be meeting the needs of your tourists, your visitors to the island. So we've got two needs here, residents and visitors. They're not exclusive, but they are hard to balance. They have very different needs. Third, we've said that the program needs to provide effective alternatives to personal vehicles. You've indicated that a lot of the autoettes, the traffic here in the village, needs to be addressed through public transportation. Next, the services need to be convenient and reliable. We need to make sure that if we say they're going to be out there, they are. They also need to be very comfortable and clean. Fares will be reasonable for the services being provided. And finally, the program clearly needs to operate within the budget that is available, within the transportation funding. As I worked with these design objectives, I also realized that there were some additional criteria that I needed to think about as a transportation planner. Rather than throw out the services that have been operating here for years, we wanted to design this service to build on the services that are familiar to your residents that you have today. Many of those services are very useful. We need to make sure they work even better. So we want to start with those rather than throw them out entirely and start over. The second is that we want to concentrate the services on fixed route. We want that to be the primary service so that it is designed to meet a lot of local needs. Today, I'm not sure that it is. I believe that it's probably oriented more toward visitors. Not many residents use the fixed route in the city, the trolley service. We know that funding limitations are going to be a problem, but those funding limitations should not dictate constraints on quality, but certainly on the service quantity. So we want to make sure that we're not affecting the quality of the service simply because of the amount of money we've got. Whatever we put out there should definitely be quality service. And lastly, when implemented, the services must be fully compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. That's been in force in the U.S. since 1990. There are components of that that we're not in compliance with today, and we'll make sure we are in compliance with effective April 1st. What I want to do is talk about the three parts of the service to briefly go through what those would entail, and we're here to get input from the public and from yourselves as to how close we're coming to what you wanted to see here when we implement the new service. The first part, we'll talk about what the Avalon Rapid Transit, or ART, or now the taxi service, I guess is what you'd call it. I want to address that first because many residents of Avalon, this is a primary part of their transportation. So we want to address right out front that it's going to continue, but it's going to continue a bit different than it is today. It'd be a door-to-door, taxi-based demand responsive service provided to full-time residents of Avalon. What we're suggesting here is that it would operate the same schedule as the taxi services are operating today. Whenever the taxi operates, this service would be operating, available to the residents. The fare would be $2 a ticket. We're proposing that the tickets be good for a full pay, the full fare of the taxi, up to a $10 meter fare. So the ticket would be bought for $2. They would hand it into the taxi when they use, and that would be good for a $10 trip on the meter. Anything over $10 would be covered by the user. So if they wanted to take a trip out to Hamilton Cove, which is more than $10, that additional fare would be paid by the rider. The passenger would also be responsible for any gratuity. So this ticket does not cover anything over $10 or the tip. There are differences from what we are doing today. So today, this would make the service a true taxi voucher program. It would subsidize the limited use of the local taxi services to provide trips when public transit is not available or trips that can't be met by public transit. The second is that the voucher holder, under this program, we're recommending the policy state that the voucher holder could bring along other riders on the same fare as long as they were going to and from the same destinations and that there was room in the vehicle for those additional passengers. This is the same privilege that's extended to a rider, someone that goes right out on the street and uses the taxi today as a full fare passenger. They could bring people along with them, same destination, same origin destination, as long as there's room in the taxi. You're paying the same fares, the price is paid is based on the same amount. Why shouldn't this also be a policy? And then again, the passengers are on their own in regards to any gratuity to the taxi operator. What we're also proposing is that the residents would be allowed to buy up to one book of 10 tickets a month, and that would cost, it's a city subsidy of $80 per month for that book. This is similar to the taxi fare or the ferry subsidy the city has now. So it's based on that same program for the commuter subsidy program. If we move on to the fixed route, we're calling that, it's now the Avalon Community Transit. You need to be careful not to call it the trolleys since we won't have trolleys. We're proposing that this route would run from the Mole to the intersection at to Casino Way, and not extend out to Descanso Beach. Descanso Beach has its own service now, and so there's no reason to run this bus duplicating the Descanso bus. That would save us 10 to 15 minutes on the route and allow us to cover more time, more area of Avalon with the same bus. The schedule you'll see here, we've timed the schedule to meet the early morning ferry on weekdays. So 7:30, we would be able to have the buses there for any of the teachers, people going to the hospital, someone coming off that early morning ferry. This would allow us to use this bus to meet that service. The fare, we're proposing a fare of $1. We could eventually develop day or weekly monthly fares, some kind of pass program if we wanted. But we want to make the fare easy to pay and reasonable for the service being provided. This does change from what we're doing today somewhat. We're going to be operating it with the fully accessible e-buses that we heard about earlier from Councilman Sampson. The service hours, as I said, will be meeting the 7:30 ferry. We want to make the bus stops more convenient, so there should be a bus stop about every 2 blocks within the residential area and certainly at major destinations. The fact that Vaughn's doesn't have a bus stop may be something to do with traffic, but it also makes it less convenient to use this bus today. We want to clearly sign the bus stops, so if you're out on the street, you can see the bus stops very clearly. At some destinations, we'll make sure there's bus stop information about the bus timing, the routes, and the schedules. And as I said, the service will not be provided past the Casino Way and Crescent intersection, going out to Descanso Beach. The third part of this is the Avalon Dial-A-Ride. This one's more difficult actually to design and maybe to explain, but the Dial-A-Ride must be comparable to the fixed route under the Americans with Disabilities Act. This is one portion of the act, of the ADA, that the city has not been in compliance with for over 25 years, about 25 years. This is something with this new service, we need to bring the city into compliance. The service, the description, this will be a door-to-door service operating to provide complimentary ADA services and local transportation to seniors and persons with disabilities, the residents here and non-residents that are senior and somewhat disabled. The schedule, it would operate the same schedule of days and hours as the community bus. We're proposing a fare of $2 per trip. And this constitutes, you'll see some very clear differences from the dial-a-ride service today that's operated. This would be operated with dedicated lift-equipped paratransit vans. They would be very similar in look and probably livery, the appearance of the fixed route vehicles. The ADA paratransit reservations would be accepted up to 3 days ahead and no closer than the day before the service. This is in compliance with the ADA. Trip requests from non-ADA disabled and seniors would be on a demand response, that is a same-day reservation basis or same-day request basis on a space available basis. ADA trip requests are ahead, and so anything that's not needed for ADA trips, we would want to fill up with dial-a-ride trips for the local seniors and disabled. Eligibility for the ADA program. We want to stop or at least avoid creating quite an eligibility process that takes more of Audra's time. As I'm told, she doesn't have much. Well, we want to piggyback on the very complex and detailed eligibility process that Access Services has in place in Los Angeles, so that anyone that's already eligible for Access Services in LA, we will make them automatically eligible to use what we're calling Avalon Access here on the island, or in Avalon. This will save us a lot of time in the administration and the eligibility process. For those who aren't already eligible, we'll have a basic eligibility process that we will ask the contractor to administer for us. We're proposing that the eligibility for the dial-a-ride, right now seniors for the dial-a-ride is defined as age 60. I'm proposing that we roll that up to 65. 65 is not that old as a senior, being one, but 60 years old for this kind of service is rather young. This is a change being made in a lot of cities. Rolling the definition of seniors up to 65 years. And lastly, we're proposing that the passenger fare is proposed to rise from $1.50 to $2, simply to reflect the high cost of providing these services. It's a very expensive service to operate. So let's look at the budget we've got here. Now, I'll admit right now, we have not refined this to the point of a break-even budget. We wanted to have your input. We can make some changes, but we felt it was better to go through this process and look for input before we spend a lot of time grinding down the numbers. We have about $550,000 in transit funding that is available for the city to spend. Above that is some additional money that goes into city overhead and administrative costs, some bankrolling of replacement monies for the buses. So the 550 is what's available to spend on services. Under the current proposal, what I have discussed here tonight, we're projecting that the taxi voucher program would cost almost $160,000. That's equivalent to continuing three-quarters of the present ART and dial-a-ride trips that are provided now. So we're saying only a small portion would go into dial-a-ride, but we wanted to make sure we put money into the taxi program to continue it at the service level, at least, that is being provided today. The second part, the community bus, about $174,000. The dial-a-ride, $287,000, almost $288,000. Now if you compare the numbers between these services, the dial-a-ride stands out for two good reasons. One is that it involves bringing vehicles onto the island and paying for them. That's a contractor responsibility under this number right here. And second, because it's a dial-a-ride program, it's carrying fewer people. You're not getting the fare box revenues that you see on the community bus. That really explains the higher cost on this. So we're showing a program cost there of $622,000, and Audra, as careful as we were, we still didn't get these to line up. but it shows a shortfall in this penciled out budget of just over $72,000. And as I pointed out, or as I mentioned, we purposely did not try to grind this down. Let's get some input, let's refine what we're doing here, and then we'll address the budget. But we have, at this point, we've got a couple of options that have come up in my discussions with you and with the staff. The first option is that the city could provide, rather than the contractor bringing the vehicles on for the dial ride, the city could provide these vehicles. We did not propose that in the original program plan, but it does make some real fiscal sense. When a city buys a vehicle, if the vehicle can operate for 10 years and it costs $60,000, well, you can equate that very easily to $6,000 a year. The contractors for this kind of business, if they're required to buy the vehicle, will write that vehicle off over the base term of the contract. So if it's a 5-year contract, it's going to be written off by this contractor and charged to you in those 5 years, including the interest payments that they charge, that they have to finance. So that equates to a 5-year savings per vehicle of about $37,000, $38,000. In addition to the savings, you've got the vehicle at the end of 5 years, you've paid for it, it's still good for another 5 years. So it makes some fiscal sense if you can afford to buy the $60,000 vehicle. Associated with this is the possibility that the city could do both the maintenance and the fueling of these vehicles, which could save some more money to the city. Now the fueling, I will tell you right now, the fueling would be, under any case, we'd be proposing in the RFP, the fuel cost would be passed through. Exactly what the contractor pays for it would be reimbursed by the city. But my understanding is the city itself can buy fuel at a bit less than what you pay at Pebbly Beach. So there's some savings to the city providing the fuel directly. So that's one option. The second option was raised in our discussions was rather than operating 2 vehicles during some periods with a dial-a-ride, that we might be able to operate only one and satisfy the demand. I think that's unclear because we don't actually know what the demand is going to be for this service. But that is certainly an option that would save us approximately $78,000 a year. So those are options there that need some, we put on the table for consideration. And finally, we go to the implementation of these services. The taxi voucher program would continue to be operated by Catalina Transportation. They are the only taxi operator on the island, and we've got to have a good fleet of taxis to run this service. So this would continue to be run by Catalina Transportation. The fixed route service and the dial-a-ride we're proposing, and this is what you've hired me in the first place to do, would be to help you put it out for a competitive bid to transportation companies both on the island and off under the same specifications to bid on these and see who can give the city the best package of cost and services. Proposed services that I've outlined here at this point would operate starting April 1st of next year. So that's our summary tonight, and I'd be more than happy to take any questions or at this point, turn it back to you.
So you're saying the fare box would come back to the city of Avalon?
Yes, ma'am.
But we have, based on experience with the current provider, do we have any idea what we're talking about? Because since we have no revenue generation.
In fare box revenues? The fare box revenues are included in the $550,000. I'm sorry, no, I misspoke. The fare box revenues are above the $550,000, but I've shown net costs. Have I lost my screen? No. The costs in that slide, in this slide here in front of you, are net costs after the deduction of the projected fare box revenues.
Oh, okay.
That the fare box revenues would come back to the city or be recognized as revenue to the city and not simply be retained by whoever the contractor is.
Councilman, Councilwoman?
Council.
And you kind of said, talked briefly about long-term costs. For example, the batteries are quite expensive. And those and right now, so that's something we have to find some way to For the buses. Yeah.
Although Audra might find another grant to pay for that too. She's very clever at
I
that.
know she is. I mean, those, I don't remember, Joe, do you remember, Councilman, do you remember the age, the longevity of those batteries on those e-buses? Do you remember them saying anything about those?
Audra's saying 10 years.
Oh, 10 years. So that gives us a lot of time to save up $240,000.
Well, hopefully it's not going to cost that.
I
Elon Musk is going to build us cheaper batteries.
I think it was 70,000
Something like that.
for a vehicle for the batteries. I'm not sure about the 10 years though. I hope you're correct there. I mean, because do they? Okay, because I thought it was less than that, but I couldn't speculate at this point, and I'm not refreshing my mind as to what the answer to that question was. I thought it was 4, but I'm not sure. 40.
I think it's 10, because I think Santa Barbara was able to get 10 years out of their batteries.
We still have to communicate with Santa Barbara, so, and I'm gonna have the mechanics look into that, but that's a big thing, because that's something that we're looking at right now, but it's one of the answers to the questions that we have to get, definitely talk to Santa Barbara. And I did speak to Chris from eBus today, and he said he would get me that information. He's gonna speak to Santa Barbara first and let them know that, that I will be contacting them personally. And also I want our mechanics to be able to speak to their mechanics in Santa Barbara as well, so that we know for sure what's going on. So anyway, this is all evolving as, you know, as we speak, basically, because this conversation I had with Chris from eBus, who's one of the designers and mechanics, just today, so we're getting there.
Do we want the community to have an opportunity to speak? Is this a good time to ask questions? Why not? I think
Absolutely.
Hi. My questions, well, I don't know if they're for you or if they're for Roy. First, how many revenue hours was that funding for, as far as the bus? Because I show with just one bus running year-round, those amount of hours, that's 3,964 hours, which comes out to approximately $44 an hour per revenue hour. And I wasn't quite sure if that had been thought into the process yet, or if you guys were just sort of generalizing what hours you wanted the bus to run, and where the bus was going to go, and all of that. Or if I could just be privy to conversations, maybe, or talk to people and kind of have some input as far as what I think.
Are you talking about the fixed route?
Yeah, the fixed route.
I'll just put it, if you have input into the RFP,
right,
then legally speaking, you're not going to be able to bid for it because you're drafting the RFP, and then you'd know that. So typically, we don't allow contractors that meet with the drafter of the RFP to bid on the RFP.
Okay.
At the same time.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ray, come on in, please.
Just to address Connie's question, the RFP will be specific on what the projected hours are, the operating hours and days, and the number of vehicles at different times. And the costs have been projected based on competitive costs in another similar system here in the LA region. So we have based it on actual case data.
Now, maybe a question for Connie. When we talk about the alternative about buying the vehicles ourselves, what's the life expectancy of those vans that you currently purchase? I'm assuming you purchased those?
We purchased, it's a Ford Windstar, and we've had it for approximately 10 years. We don't use it as often, though, because we also use our regular taxis in order to transport the Dial-A-Ride customers. So the only time that we have to use that vehicle is when somebody who is using a wheelchair requires it. But with that process right there, we would have to be using those vehicles for all of those hours that you're running the bus. That vehicle would be running as well. So your lifespan for the vehicle would be much less.
Comments from anybody else or questions in the audience?
My question, I just have one concern and a thought is comparing Catalina hours and Catalina, the way we function here, is that gonna work for this RFP? Is it gonna work? And can it be, can the hours that, and the cost on the mainland be compared to the hours and costs on Catalina? I know this thing would be evolving. We're gonna learn more about how this works, but in theory, it sounds great, but is it really applicable here in Avalon, what they run on the mainland for? That is cost and time effectiveness, cost effectiveness. Is it going to be the same? Can we compare the two?
Well, cost effectiveness and operations, yes, those are the same. I mean, I know there are things called island time and things run differently.
That's kind of what I'm referring to.
But cost, I've been very concerned about that, and I've been very careful to try not to underbid, to equate exactly something that might happen in Long Beach. You can't buy a gallon of milk or a half gallon for the same price here and there.
Yes.
So I know things are going to be more expensive here, things are going to be harder, and we've tried to take that into consideration.
That's where I was alluding to.
But ultimately, we won't know the exact answer to that until we open the bids and compare exactly what they're saying we'll get.
Okay.
So that is the nature of competitive bid on the island, probably.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I'd add is that, we think the effort is worth it. We think that our residents and our visitors deserve that same type of service that's offered over town, and
spot on.
Absolutely.
Thank you for making that consideration, and knowing what you're dealing with here versus what's going on over there and what we want to provide here. So.
Okay, it's the best commute I've had to a project.
No further comments?
Well, I mean, I like Roy's thoughts at the end about us buying the vehicles and us maintaining the vehicles and us providing the fuel for the vehicles and possibly reducing the schedule by a vehicle to help make as much money available to support the services as we can. And I would like us to prepare the documents for the RFP.
Well, then, when you were preparing the documents, is that one of the changes that would be in
Yes, that would be my recommendation.
That we do purchase them ourselves. And leasing them doesn't work, No, okay, he just shook his head. Okay, never mind. Okay.
So we're not actually needing to entertain a motion, we are just hearing from the public and hearing from us to provide input? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm good. Very thorough, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Audrey, do you have another comment?
No, thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
5 minutes.
Want to take a break now? Okay, I'm sorry, folks. Oh, man.
How long?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Sorry, Kendall.
Oh.
Sorry, the lobster shop's open late.
Number 8.
He
And-
should be right back.
And
you
we're
waiting for Jordan?
back in
You can touch it, it's
business with item number 8.
Yes, Mayor. Item number 8 is a proposed development of a Cabrillo Mole revitalization plan. As you know, one of the council's goals is to revitalize the mole, and previously council has directed staff to develop some type of plan together. Input from key stakeholders, residents, visitors, to provide some options and opportunities as to how that might be accomplished. Certainly a daunting task. We have met with Ms. Kendall Flint of RGS, who has a proposal she'd like to share with you this evening as to how you might consider doing that. So with that, I'm going to turn that over to Kendall.
And I didn't break the laptop.
Good.
Which is very good. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Again, my name is Kendall Flint. I'm a senior advisor with Regional Government Services, and I'm here to walk through you our proposal tonight, which is really about an outreach, and also, I would say, a feasibility study for the Cabrillo Mole Revitalization Project. Basically have a set of goals here, which is one, to determine the overall viability for revitalization of the mole. What I mean by that is you have a grant that's already in place, and that's fabulous, but the federal money cannot be combined with other types of money. In other words, if you do a private-public partnership, this sort of thing. And if you really want to do all the things that I think folks have been talking about over a number of years, it's going to require a substantially higher amount of money. So the idea is to figure out what are those real amenities and solutions that people want to see, both from the local residential standpoint, from visitors that come in from over town, from people coming on boats, cruise ships, all those sort of things. And then, of course, to figure out how to get that input into the plan. So one of the things we want to do is put together an outreach program that really is as inclusive as possible, and in fact does engage all of both local residents, visitors, as well as business interests and tourism interests in the area. Part of that, of course, is really coordinating heavily with visitor serving interests in the area, which would, of course, be Catalina Flyer, Catalina Express, all the other folks that are bringing people here, certainly the Chamber of Commerce, and obviously with the cruise industry. And then finally, looking at identifying potential funding and financing sources for how we might be able to implement that. And what we have to look at on that is, I'll get into a little bit further, but in the overall goal of the outreach component, we're going to have, or we're suggesting that we do sort of a mixed bag, if you will, of traditional outreach and more non-traditional outreach. Most people don't go to public workshops and meetings. They have other things to do, they've got other things going on, and it's very difficult to engage them. So what we want to do is figure out ways to make sure that we're touching all those people in meaningful ways and getting information from them that we can actually utilize later to come up with real ideas. Obviously that includes, of course, as I mentioned, the other business interests, ferry providers, as well as other industries. So at the outset, we think we absolutely need to come up with a project brand for this. Most people that are not from Avalon are not familiar with what a mole is, and there's a lot of confusion about that. It's actually from the French. It means pier or causeway or breakwater. But most people don't know that, and it's a wonderful opportunity to brand the Cabrillo Mole at this point and make it be one of those other iconic things that we do love about Avalon, just like Holly House, Green Pier, the ballroom, etc. So that we would come up with a brand that would be utilized in the entire outreach program. The first thing we would do is do a walking tour of the area, which is really going on the ground and looking at what is there, what amenities need to be upgraded, what types of things do we need to be dealing with. I find this very interesting because having spent many days there, it's even thinking about things as the interaction between fishermen and tourists. You know, where we've seen a few guys come back with a pole, and we've heard a few tourists scream with they've got the whip. How do you make that interaction better? How do you figure out best ways to move people in and out most efficiently? How do you make it so when people come to Avalon for the first time, that they have a really good first impression and that they've got a good access and a safe access in and out? So the walking tour we feel is essential. That is something that not everybody can do, so we would actually make this available as an online interaction, and I'll show you how that works in a moment. We're doing this in other communities right now, specifically for the Princeton Harbor area, and then also in the cities of Burbank and Santa Cruz. On-site exhibits, we've got only a number of weekends coming up where we have what I would call like the full boatloads that are coming in up through basically jazz tracks and a couple of events after that. But the idea is to set up interactions so when people are coming off of the ferries or off of cruise ships, that they have an opportunity to kind of walk through a set of exhibits and give us some information. We did this very successfully at a shopping mall in Arizona where people didn't know they were coming to an event, but they had no choice but to go through it. You don't want it to be invasive or something that holds people up or makes it a big traffic jam, but when you utilize the combination of both the boards and the way that we do the interactive pieces using handheld devices, cell phones, laptops, it really does work quite well. With the on-site exhibits, they'd also have the ability to just, pick preferences of things, prioritize things, and then we have what's called a QWERTY. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a little scan that a lot of people have for their phones, so you can scan these things and be automatically taken to a website to put in that type of information. We're also talking about doing a very substantial outreach effort using e-blasts and e-news. Mail is very expensive to do, so in this way we would want to partner with the Chamber, with all the various agencies on island and also those that are over town as far as getting people to subscribe to e-blasts and newsletters to get information about the different options available. That really also helps us drive traffic to the website where we can have a lot of other interactive exhibits and ways for people to express preference. What you're looking right now, this is a project I'm working on currently in the city of Santa Cruz. We have 4 major corridors, and we have a series of questions we're asking people about accessibility, parking, bike routes, all these different things. And if they can't come to the meeting, they can do this all online. And then there's also a spatial-based map where people can actually put a pin on, which we could do for this project, of the mole itself and say, I would like to see this here or this here, and then it's all categorized and put in together at the end. We're getting a tremendous, this has only been up for about a week and a half, we've already had over 1,000 visits and 600 separate comments, so it's a really good way to capture that type of information. We would also, of course, have traditional community workshops and presentations. We know here on Island that basically we have a number of groups that get together on a regular basis. We've got Lions Clubs, we've got Rotary, we've got Chamber, we've got the women's groups. We've got a real great way of connecting with people and also working with the local churches to connect for Hispanic residents and seniors communities to figure out what they're up to. But definitely doing a series of community presentations and workshops that basically get the information out there. When we do the community presentations, nobody wants to listen to PowerPoint. So what you do is you want to have a situation where you can have more interactive things. This is an example of a turning point. I don't know if you've seen this before, but we use a click polling system that allows us to capture preferences, whether it be images or priorities, on the fly in a meeting and then combine those later. It also makes it a lot more fun for the participants because they kind of, and for this would be a great one, how did the mole get its name? What's the mole? What is a mole? Those kind of things we could have some fun with. It also gives us the ability to go through a tremendous amount of information relatively quickly. So for example, if we were looking at preferences or ideas about things like seating areas or overhead shade kind of things, this would be a way to capture that in a meaningful way. At the end of the outreach program, which we anticipate would take 4 to 6 weeks, we'd have to implement this relatively quickly, both because of the grant lifetime and also, again, because we want to make sure to capture those people that are coming on island. The report would come back to council and hopefully be able to provide some clear direction about what both residents and economic interests want to see. And that would be put together in a statistical manner. So we have both a qualitative and a quantitative side of that. So you'd be looking at something that was substantial and really be able to get some good ideas out of it. And then we'd be sort of establishing the parameters for the different types of structures. We know people may want to see some things that are just maybe not feasible at this time, but there's also ways that you can build things that would go for future development. As an example, you only have so much at one time, let's say, to do certain things, but when you go to the architect for the way that you have something designed, if it was to hit overhead, you can leave room for additional amenities to be upgraded later, knowing that you might get funding for that down the line. We'll also be helping you out with giving a set of potential funding and financing operations. In this particular type of case, what's most common are 3 top priorities, if you will. A business improvement district, which you may have heard of, is funded by local businesses and usually is used for things like police or landscaping, downtown enhancement, that sort of thing. In this case, we might be looking at an infrastructure improvement district, which is similar, but it can also have both public and private people putting into the pot, and also gives folks in a way to sit on a JPA board or other type of thing that allocates the way that the revenue is then spent so that people are more confident, especially we're going to go for the public-private side. They want to know if they're putting money in, where that's going to be going to, and how that's going to be allocated. And then finally, just a straight private-public partnership, which you can do through a joint powers authority or a couple other ways. But we would look with all the folks we're talking to and kind of get a sense about what people think is most feasible, what is going to be something that would be accepted. And then finally, we'd also be looking at review of potential revenue-generating elements for the project. We're currently working at RGS with a couple of companies, one of them in particular, Optera, which is looking for pilot programs for energy efficiency programs. What's interesting about that specifically here for Avalon is that we know with the mole that when people are going on and off the boats, they want to have something over their heads because it can be really brutal. Well, why not put solar panels on that and generate something to get some money out of it? And with that kind of thing, there's opportunities to get a zero cost to the jurisdiction for the installation, and then the payment has gone back with their savings that are generated later and or that are taken off the grid. So there's a lot of different ways to combine that. There's another group in Southern California that's putting together kiosks that you can actually use your smart card to rent surfboards. I have no idea what it's going to be here, but we want to explore those kind of things to figure out what might happen. The other pieces of that, of course, are looking at other alternative uses or other options for the mall. Everything from electric vehicle charging stations to other types of uses that might be compliant with all the other things that we're talking about. As you move forward with that, just to decide, you're definitely going to have your local coastal program put together because all of those type of things, when you do go to your environmental review, are going to come back to that LCP. So it's something you need to be kind of keeping in the back of your mind to make sure that they're all connected. The report would end with a project timeline that would talk about what we know that could happen in a certain amount of time based on feasibilities, how long it would take to set up some of these different types of arrangements, and based on council direction, we give you the opportunity to move forward with the way you would want to go. So our last deliverable of that would be, of course, coming back to council and saying, here's what we found, here's what people want, here's what it's going to cost, and here's how you can pay for it. And then it would be, of course, at the pleasure of council to determine what direction you'd like to take the city in at that point. And that really concludes my presentation, although I just want to show you this one really cool. This is an example of one of the other covers, solar power generation. This is a $2 million a year plus side for the jurisdiction. It's a rather large campus, but it's nothing to laugh at. There's a lot of opportunities, and we do have a lot of sunshine here. So with that, I'm ready, of course, to take any questions that you might have.
Great.
You answered my first question, which was an estimated time frame. If we were to approve going forward tonight, how long before you plan to begin?
I think tomorrow would probably
Great,
be
that works
good.
for me.
It's the clock's ticking.
Yeah, no, that works for me. And then I just want to make sure that I encourage you to work with not only Jim Lutjohan from the Chamber, but also Buddy Wilson and Conrado Vega from the cruise ship side of the Chamber and visitor operations. And I know you guys have transferred information to make sure that we also keep in the forefront the possibility of a berthing facility for cruise ships. Whether that would or wouldn't go forward, I just at least want to make sure that you encompass the conversation as part of this. And then also, I don't want to leave out Carnival, and I forget the actual corporate name of who is doing our tendering now, to make sure that you include them in the conversations.
And I think to that point, it's also important to take a look at, frankly, cruise lines that may not be here yet, that may be interested in coming here at the point
Agreed.
that moves forward. So I think that's something, I know Cunard has been here before, and there's others that, if amenities were different, might more closely fit their brand. So I think that's something we have to consider as well.
Great, perfect. I'm very excited about moving forward with this. I think this gets us on track where we need to go with getting a plan together, finding out how much it's really going to cost us, and I'd love to see us do better for our visitors.
And the parameters when we're all chit-chatting, with this amount of money that we have, first of all, that 2 million or whatever, that's not just for the bottom. That's just not for the underneath. I mean, we know there's this, don't we have to put in some money on the bottom side of the mall, underneath of the mall? Okay, but that 2.6 million or whatever isn't just for the undercarriage, correct? It's for undercarriage and top?
It's for whatever, we're going to be designing, we're taking this information, then going out to an engineer to design it, and we'll use the 2.6 million, well, 3 million total for whatever, whatever we can, and it may just be, depending on the price, the undercarriage. It may be undercarriage and some structural improvements for what you want to see when visitors come in.
I can tell you from recent storm damage, it's going to be only the undercarriage. The
Right,
bottom
that's
part
it.
is not getting better, it's getting worse, and costs are going up as we.
Right.
So it's probably that grant money is going to take care of the undercarriage.
Okay, and then we just got a grant for the restrooms for 900,000?
Yes.
Okay, so that's kind of in the mix. But then I'm curious, in the planning, how far out can we plan? Does it just have to be the parking lot or whatever? Can we go down a little bit into the green belt of town?
I think that part of what she's talking about is having that ability to think forward and having it be modular, if you will, so that you can leave expansion parts thinking of the future.
It's very common, like when we're doing right now, a lot of interchanges are, it's more common in transportation planning, where you maybe only have enough money to do 2 lanes for 20 miles,
Right.
but you want to get to 4 lanes later, so when you're at the beginning, you handle your right-of-way and other things so that when the additional funding comes in a phased thing, you would be able to
Right.
implement there. I think what we're talking about with this kind of project is that at the end of it, you'd have a real good sense about what the priorities of the community are. I mean, restrooms are a priority for many people, and that, you know, goes to the head of the class, but then what's next? You know, enhanced luggage storage, bike storage, fishing storage,
Shade.
additional parking, and all those
Sure,
kind of
yeah.
things, but you want to have that on your head, in my mind, for even looking down as far as 15 or 20 years, because as things progress and things go on, you want to set it up so that you're positioned for future success and for future enhancements should they become viable in the years ahead.
Sure. Okay, great.
But didn't we already have excuse me?
No.
Didn't we already have an assessment of what the foundation and the infrastructure of the mole is? Did we have that assessed?
We've had some recent engineer evaluations of how bad the damage is and what it might take to evaluate it.
Is that something, is that information that you're going to use or you could use?
Oh,
or that
absolutely. Because
we need
when
to share with you?
Yeah, what we'll be doing at the very beginning is figuring out exactly what monies are available, what the estimated costs are. We do work with civil engineers on a regular basis. And I'm going to say it's going to be one of these kind of guesstimates. It's not going to go down to the nth degree, but a guesstimate about what it's going to take, and then we'll come back and say, this is what you've got to play with, this is what's available, and these are the options you have moving forward.
What would be the three first priorities out there? I mean, obviously the infrastructure, the way the concrete sits, and also I think Oli brought up a good point a while back, which kind of resonates in my mind. What is our vision for the mole? Is that something you're going to give us options to?
We're going to definitely talk about that, because you want to know, one thing is functionality. In other words, as a community, what is the function of that facility? Fundamentally, is it a functional place for ferry traffic? Is it intended to evolve into a functional place for larger scale ships? I don't know. But that's what we're going to be asking people, and then hopefully coming back to council with some really good data that says this is what we think the folks want to see in order to be successful later.
I think we got to keep in mind we want the Avalon brand in there, on that mole. We want the Avalon brand, and we want people to be able to advertise their businesses out there. We want people to have their luggage and everything facilitated in a pretty easy way from that point. Have an option of what they can see and experience in Avalon from out there. They should be given some kind of an idea. And then obviously we'll need restrooms, food, the express ticket box. We're going to need to move baggage, things like that, transportation. All those things are important, but I'm just curious, is the 800-pound gorilla in the room, is most of this money going to be going towards fixing the foundation of that facility so that we have an area to grow?
I don't know, because I haven't looked at the whole thing, but based on what I've read so far and my understanding about what you have, the money that you have right now will fundamentally refurbish the safety factor, the undercarriage of the mall, and will upgrade the restrooms. Now, that being said, once that's completed and once some of that work is done, we can ask the engineers to design those upgrades in such a way that they would be compatible with future enhancements that would come in the next phases. And you might even be eligible for things like active transportation plans, things that use bicycle or walking things. You might be eligible for alternative energy sources. There's a number of things out there, and people are getting real creative.
Okay.
And now's the time to do it because, as you know, there's less money and more jurisdictions fighting for it. But I think that, given the historic nature of it and the functionality, and the Coastal Commission also loves stuff like that because it gets more people onto beaches, and I think there's a lot of things we can do, but it's really a matter of the priorities of what you want to see come first. We know that the economics of Avalon are driven by tourism, and when you come to Avalon, if that's the first thing that you see, which it has been for 30 years, 40 years, it could be much nicer. And I think everybody kind of agrees with that. It's just sort of how do you do that and it still keep the character of the island, and also, in my opinion, and this is just me as somebody who visits here a lot and lives here part-time, it's the one big structure in town that has no brand associated to it. There's everything else is a play space that meet me at the casino, meet me at the beach club, meet me at the pier. Everybody knows where that is. And most people that aren't from here do not know meet me at the mall. Mm-hmm. They think that's kind of creepy. So it's like, and you should have some fun with that, I think. That's a branding standpoint. Yeah. So that's just my 2 cents.
Okay, great. Comments from the community?
That is kind of creepy. That's so great.
So I'm happy to say that you've all touched on everything that I think I had on my bullet points to bring to your attention. So I just say ditto, ditto, ditto. Ditto. I'm thrilled to hear cruise industry being listed out here as a really important element to this, and the potential berthing facility being listed out all over the branding. So please approve this.
Good evening, council members. Buddy Wilson, 800 Crescent. Mr. Sampson, I'd like to throw something else into the mix. Maybe we can also consider this in the study. There possibly is a few of us in this business community that would also invest in that facility for obviously, hopefully at some point, our betterment as a business, but I think there's some long-term people out there that would probably consider it very strongly. I would be one of them. So with that, I think that element really wasn't covered within the discussion tonight, but I'd like to make sure that at least some part of that topic gets explored. Thank you.
No, she touched on that, and I think we're in agreement, or all of us. Yeah.
Yeah, she'll reach out to, she'll reach out to you for sure, buddy. Yeah,
Reaching
absolutely.
right into your pocketbook.
Okay. If there's no further comments?
You want a motion?
Yeah, I would like
You
one.
okay. Move to authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with Kendall Flint of RGS for development of a Cabrillo Mall revitalization plan with a total project budget not to exceed $15,000.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Call for the vote.
Is this going just really quick before I press the button, are we going to need to, can I speak? Can I say something at this point? Are we going to need to do this a few times more? I mean, is this the 15,000, this is the start?
This is to come back to you with here's the input, here's some ideas.
Okay.
And you get a final report, and then you get to decide how to move forward.
Okay, that's fine.
And costs and possible funding.
Well, we got to start somewhere. I appreciate your, your presentation was just fine. I appreciate that. It's pretty complete.
Could you all vote again, please?
Oh, sure.
I forgot how I voted.
4 ayes and 1 absent, Hernandez.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kendall. And I don't know who's the gentleman with you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Richard, I'm the executive director of RGS.
Okay, hi, Richard.
Okay.
Hi, Richard.
All righty.
Make sure he buys dinner.
Excellent.
Enjoy the lobster
Okay.
trap.
And we're moving on to item number 9.
Okay, item number 9. This is a rather daunting item, so my suggestion, council, this is of course your goals. This is an assessment of where we are, trying to determine priorities and maybe considering some additional goals. And in the interest of not keeping you here for 12 hours to go through this line by line, I'd like to suggest, if you concur, to if you go to the, let's see, there's the 4th page.
4 of 15?
4 of 15, that's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you, Jordan.
Yes, my thanks to Jordan. This is Jordan's handiwork, obviously. But you see here a progress report overview showing you where we think, as your city staff, where we stand in trying to move forward on your established goals. And we've got an up arrow, which means we've made some significant progress. A sideways arrow, which means that we've made good progress, but we've still got more to do. And a down arrow, where it doesn't mean that we haven't done anything, but it just means that we have not really. We feel we haven't made any significant move ahead. So we've taken all your goals and we've assigned a value to them. And I don't know if you want to comment on any of those, if you have any concerns about where we stand. I mean, some of them, just as a for instance, I think are fairly obvious. So for example, if you look at the under natural resources, freshwater resources, we've assigned that an up arrow because we think that with your investment in the second desalination plant, we have made significant progress in that area. And that on top of the Reclaim Water Master Plan. I mean, we definitely have made some inroads. Some of these items, we don't think we have really made significant progress, and that doesn't mean for a lack of interest or effort, but some of them are daunting. For example, under enhanced recreational opportunities, the community center. Well, I can tell you that we have not made much progress on that. Doesn't mean we haven't talked to folks, doesn't mean we haven't thought about it or discussed, but we just haven't. Right. So we've gone through because we felt that you deserved a scorecard to show what we've done for the last basically year and a half trying to establish these. And if you had any questions or concerns on these items, I'd be happy to hear it. The detail that goes with each one is in the following pages, where we've tried to put those items that quantify progress and dates as specific as we have them for the how we're establishing that arrow value. Does that make sense so far with what we've done?
Yes.
So, considering all that, I think we've got a couple big asks of you this evening.
What?
Big asks of you.
Okay.
Requests.
Okay.
Get your mind out of the
I
gutter,
thought you
Mayor.
said apps. Like
Apps. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're going the IT route. We're looking for you to help us with assigning priorities, because that's been one of our challenges, and it should be obvious, but I guess it wasn't at the time. We need to know what's the most important things we should be working on. And then we're also, and we've talked about this before, wanting you to consider some additional goals, because we think that we have some areas that we missed that we may want to add. And those are some suggestions, and these aren't the be-all, end-all. This is just your staff trying to come back with some ideas for you to consider. On page 15, we've listed 8 different potential goals, and there certainly could be others that you might want to add to the list or not add going forward. So with that, how would you like to proceed on this item this evening?
Well, I guess the first, with the content, with the progress report overview and all that, are people happy with that concept and the way that's moving and the way this looks, starting with page 4? Are we kind of good with that concept?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In terms of the items in that area, and I don't know, I don't want to say let's take something off of there, but if I don't even know if amongst themselves if they need to be prioritized, like enhancing recreational opportunities. For example, the community center. There is no land, there is no money, there is no whatever, and so do we?
As a suggestion, only a suggestion,
Sure.
you could create a goal parking lot, if you will. Some of these goals are noble, but considering some of the other work to be done, we're just probably not going to.
Or reestablish in the 2016. I mean,
You could do that.
To have them kind of lingering over our head, I think is a little.
Well, some of them are sequential. I mean, the recreational activities needs assessment,
Which won't be done for.
which won't be done, but which should also address the needs of what the community center is. I mean, I've heard community centers being multiple things. You talk to this person, that
Oh, I
person,
know.
and so I think if you prioritize and say sequentially, we want to do the needs assessment first, and then we start working on the community center, because we'll find out what the community center is according to the needs.
Yeah. No, well, well, and the same with the amphitheater.
And it, just
And
because.
that all files under that
Just
too.
because there is no room for a community center, just to have a specific area for a community center, why can't we think outside of the box and possibly go to the churches and go to maybe some privately owned places and have a movable community center?
Yeah.
Something where we can, every week, have a different spot for kids, maybe families, and whatever the community needs are for a community center, whatever priorities are, that we can actually get a committee together that,
Right.
and have people give us input, but we
Right.
could go to the churches and say, hey, do you mind having a community center at your church this week?
For this activity
For
or
this
whatever.
activity, or we'll bring in, maybe we'll get a truck.
I think that's what the needs assessment will
That-
identify. I mean,
Right.
I think we got steps we got to take, and the baby step is to get the needs assessment, and then
Okay.
if we identify what the needs are, then we try to find the solutions.
Right.
See that?
Yeah, because it's easy to do an assessment of who's out there and what, the school gyms and whatever on all those. So maybe we put those in a little better, so recreational needs assessment, and then with that, under that would be the amphitheater, community center, whatever. And then Joe Machado Field, is that just that's the returfing, correct?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that is it.
Okay.
And what about, do we have any landscaping needs up there? I mean, that's also part of that Joe Machado period.
Right.
Things that we're-
With the grant money you secured, we're going to be coming back. We're able to take that money and come back with a proposed design for you to consider. And it will not only include landscaping, but I'm using the wrong term, but a catch basin, a way to reclaim the water from that facility.
Okay, now, on page 15, the transportation, item number 3, transportation, implement recommendations from City Council transportation study sessions. Isn't that, we're going in that direction, aren't we?
Yes.
We're going to have those, okay.
We took the easy way out on this one, if you want to know the truth, because we knew that's going to be a big discussion. Rather than opine as to several different things we already listed in your roadmap for that session, we said, we'll take your direction, obviously, from that. But you don't have a transportation goal necessarily, and so we wanted to just suggest that as an addition.
And we're going to have
Oh,
a
yeah.
study, okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
The other thing on the goals, housing, we don't really have anything about housing.
Good catch. As no sooner did this thing get printed than I realized, you know what, I left off housing.
Yeah, because we really haven't discussed it, but.
Needs to be on there.
Yeah, and
It's a tough one.
some of the terms that you would prefer to use on when we talk about that would be.
I would hope that you would consider something like explore a stakeholder partnership to offer affordable and employee housing opportunities, because we've had some preliminary discussions with some stakeholders on the island about an all-in-one concept where a stakeholder could be able to offer employee housing, we'd be able to offer affordable housing, and it might also include a community center. So we could pool our available monies, and in our case would be affordable housing, and the stakeholders' cases would be their employee housing to get the most bang for our buck. And the awesome part about some type of concept like that would be if it could get us out of having to purchase land because maybe a stakeholder already owns some property, that would be terrific. It'd be very efficient.
Okay. In that also, I might be the only one, but I had talked before about the inspections on people that are renewing those that have year-round housing.
Yes.
And that kind of an inspection program I would like to see us look into also, so that at least we can maybe get a little boost up in the way that our residents have to live. Because I know from the vacation rentals, it doesn't seem to be a problem. Those are very well maintained, but the year-round housing stock is, some of it's kind of shabby. So that's the only other thing on that one.
So we could do a number. Mayor Protem, are you going to say something? I'm sorry.
I was just going to suggest that we take this 15-page document and in some cases prioritize some of the categories for our own selves and share them at the next meeting, or to return them back to Denise and let her or somebody else compile and share, so make sure we're all not on the same page. But
I'd recommend Jordan, if you're
Jordan,
back
good.
in.
Jordan will be it.
A big hats off to Jordan, because he did, I mean, as you can see, it's some significant work here. He went through, and we knew we had made some good progress, and he really went through and proved it out in each section. So thank you, Jordan.
We have numbered pages, which is really exciting.
But, okay, so coming back, you guys would provide that feedback to Jordan, and we could then come back to you?
Would be my suggestion.
Yeah.
Prioritizing from.
So you're proposing adding now 9.
Housing.
9 was housing, I just added that in there. You're proposing adding those as additional goals, kind of reworking, you're not really talking about replacing, you're talking about.
Yeah, so then this probably lends itself to the bigger discussion, because what we want to talk about is duration of time. Maybe this becomes a 2-year or longer document, so we can map it out. But all these items we think are very important, and a lot of them, like you guys are talking about, support other goals, but we really probably, I shame on me, I mean, especially in the public safety category, I mean, it's a hats off to our first responders that we don't have major issues in this area, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be priorities, and we shouldn't talk about goals. Just as one example.
Well, and when you talked about somewhere here about the 2030 vision or plan or whatever.
Page 4.
Thank you.
Page 4.
That to me sits on top of this, because it talks, because that's kind of our mission and our goal. It seems like it sits on top of that. It
does, but it's not ours.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
It's the chamber, it's the company, it's us, it's the Conservancy. I mean, the last process took 4 months, 5 months worth of meetings to get to the 2020 goals. I don't envision it taking quite that long because a lot of the groundwork's been done, but it's going to take getting the stakeholders out there and hashing through the stuff and prioritizing stuff. And it's not something that we ourselves are responsible for, a party of it. And we need to talk to our partners and make sure we can go play together nicely. But it's not something we can accomplish on our own.
Okay, but the other information that we have there, the local coastal plan and all of that, and the city's vision and all of that, we have our own there.
I would refer to those as guidance and reference tools, but specifically these, as your municipal organization, we're looking to your goals to guide us in what we're working on. And while those are good reference documents, we can go back to them to remember what the feedback was, but you provide direction, and it's through your goals that you do that.
But our LCP is not up to date.
Yeah, okay, yes. Okay. Then, as per Ole, we're just gonna
Send it to Jordan.
prioritize and send it to Jordan.
And so then, so just to pull that thread further, so after we gather that, we'll come back to you and review what you came up with, right? Am I understanding that correctly?
Earlier in the agenda.
Earlier in the agenda,
yeah.
okay, fine.
I mean,
We can
there's
do that.
definitely a couple items on here that I would think it would be prudent to involve the chamber in. Certainly about your proposed goals, that they're already very well established in what they do. So I certainly don't want to recreate any new goals with the city or any new work. I'd rather build upon or add to the chamber's plate, yeah.
And could I get item 9 electronically?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
Jordan, could you send that to Ole, please?
Times 2.
Oh, just send it to all council, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this one we have to do.
Okay. Now, item number 10.
Okay, thank you very much.
We will be a joint, would you?
Yeah,
City Attorney, please
I
explain.
think what we should do is, along with this meeting, we have a meeting of the successor agency. We have two items for the successor agency to consider, items 10 and 11. Item number 10 is a joint item which will be voted on by both you acting as the successor agency and as the city council.
Right.
Do we need to take a roll call for the successor item?
No.
Okay, right.
And I just want to point out that the staff recommendation on the staff report just needs to be noted that you're going to be adopting two separate resolutions. One is as of the city and the other is as the successor agency for the loan repayment, because it wasn't on there.
Okay,
Will
well,
it be for item 10 or 11?
10.
For 10.
Okay, all right, we're done. Okay, okay, got it.
so look, everyone, it's your finance director, Bob Mesher, here to deliver both these items. Lucky Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
To forgive his voice, he is battling a cold a little bit this evening, but
Oh,
he's
no.
stayed through and he's here to present. So Bob, take it away, please.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of council. This is item 10, and this is a cleanup item for the finance department. It's a result of Chris Wojcik's collaboration with RSG, the consultant, and the State Department of Finance in reviewing and reconciling the past expenses that were on the ROPS. They realized that about $139,000 was advanced from the city to the successor agency and never applied to the ROPS. And the Department of Finance recommended that to resolve this, that a loan be created between the successor agency and the city, so that then the successor agency will put it on the ROPS for the next 6 months budget, which is the next item that we'll be talking about. And then once they're reimbursed, they would reimburse the city. It's just a formality, and it's just a result of reconciling prior year's submission of expenses.
And that's typically a piece of property or something, or no? Not
No,
necessarily
no,
property.
this all came about because when the state first abolished redevelopment and it was all muddied, we took some city money and spent it on, for things that could have been eligible for redevelopment monies. So what we did is, we took the redevelopment monies after we realized that and reimbursed the city, leaving the redevelopment with less money. And now the Department of Finance has said, hey, you know what? You can put it on the ROPS and we'll give you the money back.
Oh.
So it's the state money is going to give us it's no cost other than drafting the agreement, and we're hopefully get $140,000 from the state.
Great, okay. Questions?
No.
Okay, is there a motion?
Move to recommend that successor agency in the city of Avalon approve an agree authorizing the repayment of a loan from the city of Avalon.
And two separate resolutions.
I said two separate resolutions.
You said
Resolution of the successor agency and the city of Avalon.
Okay, great.
That would be clear.
Okay,
Okay.
there's the motion, is there a second?
Second that.
Okay, move to second and call for the vote.
4 ayes.
Item number 11.
And item number 11 is a routine item. You would see this every 6 months. It's submitting the budget, the 6 months budget, to the Department of Finance for their approval, and also to the Oversight Board, which will be meeting tomorrow. The items that are on the ROPS are the same as last time with a couple changes. One is the new loan that we just approved. The other is $50,000 estimate for the stairs of the museum, and then $500,000 funding for low to moderate income housing for the program for the next 6 months, just to refund that.
First-time
And
homebuyers.
This is just a routine item, and they're just approving that this be submitted for the Oversight Committee and to the Department of Finance.
Okay, questions from the community? Okay.
Or comments?
I wondered why you were here, Lola.
My name is Laura DeMille, 64 Sol Vista. I'm one of the people that applied and got pre-approved for the first-time homeowners, or the homeowners, sorry, I'm really nervous.
Great.
It's okay.
I put in my application when it first came out in June, and I have never got an answer back because I go to the bank, I got pre-approved from the bank to get my loan, and then the bank told me to talk to the city, and I was told that I was approved for my loan with the city. So I can't move ahead with the bank because the city has never talked to the bank. So I've been at a standstill, and I've been doing everything that I've been asked to be done. I've been jumping through the hoops. I've been being very patient, and it was a 90-day deadline, and the past person, Al, said that was waived. And I've lived on this island almost 40 years. It's the only time I appreciate this chance to being able to buy my home that I've lived in for 3 years, and I don't know where I'm going with this. I just hope you can get the program going and just get an answer, because I want my home.
I understand. So as she indicated, Al is working to move things forward, and he is on top of this, and I will follow up.
Okay, Al in the bank,
Yes.
okay.
And the money has already been allocated for this, and I think there are 4 loans that are eligible under the previous ROPS. This puts another $500,000 out there for future people.
Okay.
So just as a side note then, can we ask staff to make this a priority for the existing 4 applicants?
Yes.
To please move forward with
Yeah,
them?
because it's not only, it's the people we're buying the homes for too are on hold also, so.
Yes, I got it.
Thank you,
Yes.
everyone, for your time.
No, thank you for
Coming
hanging.
up. Yeah.
I guess you probably could have talked at the very first of the meeting when but
Thanks, Lola.
Good job, Laura.
okay. Item 11.
So you're considering, that's the one you're considering now.
Okay.
We just need a motion.
Is there a motion?
I will make a motion to adopt the resolution of the successor agency to the Avalon Community Improvement Agency approving a recognized obligation payment schedule 1516B.
Is there a second?
Second?
Move to second and call for the vote.
Absolutely.
4 ayes.
Now we will be going into closed session.
We have 3 closed session items. public employee performance evaluation, city manager, conference with real property negotiators. This is regarding the yacht and tuna club, and public employee dismissal, discipline, and release.
And I would like to say good night, Tony, and we will be back. And we're back from closed session.
No reportable action.
Oh, thank you.
We're out of here.